all, Scott here, and happy Independence. I would have said day, but I'm such a busy guy, so much so that I'm making my jack-o'-lanterns now so I don't have to in October. Pumpkins are hard to come by this time of year. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And did you hear that? Either I'm in a really shitty neighborhood or it's Halloween. I can't tell you how excited I am for the season. I recently ate an entire fucking pumpkin in preparation, and I must say I'm definitely more pumpkin than man at this point. And I also followed the simple 9-step plan to affirm that I'm going to rake in the most possible trick-or-treaters this year. It's absolutely foolproof. I'm going to be having kids camping outside my house for the midnight release of this whole Halloween thing. Anyways, Halloween is a thing. So it's time for some spooks and scares to give us some jeeps and creeps. Let's talk about a game that is the cornucopia of brainwashing and suicidal thoughts. Yep, everybody's favorite, Polybius. Now you may be saying, Scott, so many other people have talked about Polybius. Have you truly run out of ideas? Well, yeah, just don't say it like that. So grab your nearest 3-month-old rotten watermelon and lend an ear. On with the spook. 1981. Back when arcades were an absolute humdinger. They were prime hangout spots for kids, even though they weren't the most ideal place in parents' eyes. As video games became increasingly more and more popular, many questioned if they had any negative effects on the players, whether that be migraines or behavior alteration. The US government noticed how video games could entrance a player and wanted to test something. They've already dabbled in this industry, as Atari built a specialized version of the game Battlezone as a training tool for soldiers. But this time, the government wanted to try something a bit more racy. They wanted to make a game that would addict and brainwash its players. This game was Polybius. Released only in Portland, Oregon for a short period of time, the unmarked black arcade cabinet would draw lines thicker than any other, with players absolutely entranced by the game. The game supposedly utilized vector graphics, which make for clean, smooth lines. The gameplay of Polybius has been debated to death, however most have agreed Polybius is very similar to that of Tempest by Atari, released around the same time. The difference is, Polybius snuck in various subliminal messages in the game, which would flash at the player spontaneously. These messages, along with the addictive nature of the game, tormented players. The game reportedly caused many to suffer from sickness, nightmares, seizures, suicidal thoughts, and even death. After these incidents started happening, the game was quickly pulled from the arcade, never to be seen from again. I don't know, man. Polybius is one of the largest urban legends in all of gaming. Many aspects of the story make sense, but when analyzed, it all starts to kind of fall apart. The earliest known mention of the game was in 1998, when an entry for an arcade game entitled Polybius was found on coinop.org, where early tidbits of the legend were revealed there, commenting on the rumors floating around about the cabinet and how obscure it is. In 2006, a user by the name of Stephen Roach made a comment on the CoinOp entry stating he was an employee for the company Sinneslosion, the makers of Polybius. Sinneslosion is a fake German word that is a couple of words mashed together, roughly translating to sensory deprivation. According to Roach, the company was contracted by a South American business, and he stated that he and his colleagues didn't know their own strength when it came to coding, as they weren't aware of the effects it would have on players. CoinOp came back and stated that Roach's statement was false, but we're talking Polybius here, who really has the right to say what's true and what's false? The concept of a video game harming the minds of impressionable youth is nothing new. One of the first video game controversies surrounded the game Death Race in 1976, where it looked and sounded as if you were driving over people, while in reality you were driving over gremlins. This led to many asking if video games could inspire players to commit heinous acts in real life. Controversy revolving around a game's effect on a player has basically been around since the very beginning, so it makes sense that an urban legend surrounding a game negatively affecting the mind around this time period would exist. Various games were made to recreate the legend, however none specifically have any mind-altering effects. There have been numerous PC and Flash games based off of Polybius. Looking up the name on YouTube shows us multiple supposed gameplay videos of the game, but the vast majority of these were technologically impossible by 1981 standards. An Atari 2600 homebrew was created and sold exclusively at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. This actually had subliminal messages in it, as subliminal as you can get on a 2600 game. Most recently, a PlayStation 4 game that supports VR came out under the name Polybius. This was inspired by the legend, but it's primarily its own thing. The majority of these recreations and inspirations are shooters, which fall in line with the rumor of the game being similar to Tempest. But no matter how plausible you believe the legend of Polybius is, you have to admit there are loads of things that just don't add up. Why was the first mention of this thing in the late 90s? No records of Polybius exist anywhere prior to this. Why wouldn't any news organizations report on such a thing? A popular video game resulting in illness? Come on, you know the news would be thumping its foot at the thought of that story. Were arcade games really advanced enough to flash mind-altering subliminal graphics in 1981? Nowadays? Sure, why not? But back then, Nintendo couldn't even design Mario's hair correctly in Donkey Kong the same year. Men in Black would reportedly come in to collect data from the machine and then immediately leave. What would they be collecting? How much people are playing it? More worthwhile data to check would be the effects on players, but the machine couldn't track that. Why would the US government conduct this kind of experiment in such a public area within an entertainment medium that was getting so much media coverage? Why wouldn't they keep this to private experimentation only? Sinuslosion, if you're creating a game that has mind-altering effects on the player, why would you name your company something that translates to exactly that? It's like if you're a serial killer naming your bicycle shop Murder and Ted's Bike Bonanza. Polybius could have possibly been confused with the arcade game Polyplay. The cabinet featured 8 different games, which could explain the confusion of what game Polybius actually is, and was made in Germany, the language the supposed company Sinuslosion comes from. Polybius' name is taken straight from Polybius, a Greek historian who famously stated that historians should not report on something they cannot verify, which, you know, is everything Polybius is. Something that can't be verified. The whole concept of Polybius has mostly been disproven, yet there still remains a fair amount of mystery behind the supposed game. It's highly unlikely it ever existed, but who knows, maybe someday it'll turn up somewhere. And that is why you lock your doors at night. You don't want an arcade cabinet following you at home. Now that is terrifying. Oh my god. If my calculations are correct, that's the Polybius alarm I installed yesterday, which means there's been a Polybius sighting within 10 meters. I think it's about time we try and wrangle this sucker up and see if it's the real deal or not.
And I can't believe it, but it's finally time to start this brand new segment I've been wanting to do for quite a long time. Elusive Demonic Arcade Cabinet Chasers. On this episode, we're going to be trying to find Polybius, and on the next episode... Now, of course, Polybius' main function was brainwashing impressionable youth, so catching it is easier than you may think. What can I say? I just get demonic arcade cabinets. So it's been about a solid 5 minutes past the amount of time anybody should be hunting for demonic arcade cabinets for, and I'm about ready to call it quit. Looks like we got a live one! Fucking boxing told me this thing would catch anything and everything. I hate when this happens. Jesus! Ah! Ah! Stop! 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 Luckily, I was diagnosed with a little thing I like to call street smarts.
Shit, that smells like hypnosis. Ugh. Elusive Demonic Arcade Cabinet Chasing 101. Never burn a cabinet's wood. The spirit's annoyingly released after that. Now you have to find some form of containment for it. That watermelon contains one of the most horrific spirits ever conceived. I had to lock it up for good, so I sold it to some jank thrift shop.
Man, why did we buy a rotten watermelon off of that guy? Get that thing out of here.
Hey y'all, Scott here. I've been on a strict anti-calendar agenda the entire year so far. I have no fucking clue what month or day it is, so I'm really at a loss as to why both my Jeepometer and Creepometer are going off the charts. Yeah, that's probably why. Everybody's a bit more accepting of murder, which can only mean one thing. Halloween is here! It's just, it doesn't really feel like it to me. The calendar may be screaming October, but my body's screaming March. I guess it's because I haven't really been scared yet this month. And of all months, October is prime piss yourself season. I just want to get scared, but it's just not happening. Look, my hand's been bleeding this entire time, it's doing nothing for me. Maybe I've just grown out of Halloween, which really blows. I love this season. Last year, to prove my passion for the holiday, I tried to get the copyright to pumpkins, but all they could give me was gourds. I just need to try. I can't let Halloween lose all of its flavor. I need to get scared by something, anything.
Need a quick piss-me-up? Consider breaking and entering this haunted house.
Huh. I don't know, that seems a little too by the numbers for me.
People who talk about stupid Nintendo games, beware.
Now we're talking! That's the perfect way to scare the piss, and out of me as well! Yeah, this seems like the place. If I really wanted to, I could piss myself out of fear right now, but I'm not gonna do that just to boost this house's ego that much more. No, it has to be genuine fear. That's why I'll be keeping track of the pissometer. Once this baby hits 100%, I've officially scared the piss out of myself and Halloween is saved. Which shouldn't be a problem, because look at this place, it's perfect. And really, what creepy-ass old house isn't complete without a Sega CD? The Sega CD was an add-on for the Sega Genesis released in 1992 here in North America. Its primary purpose was initially to be a way to play enhanced Genesis titles. Games like Mortal Kombat, Echo the Dolphin, and Earthworm Jim were originally on the Sega Genesis, but were later brought over to the Sega CD with more content and better music. The CD format allowed for more storage and higher quality graphics and sound, so it was pretty exciting at the time to imagine what that could mean for Genesis owners. Instead, a bunch of companies decided to port over their home movies and we got games like Double Switch and Fahrenheit. Full motion video games, or interactive movies. The Sega CD could run them, so why not? FMV games were nothing new. Dragon's Lair was an arcade game from '83 that was basically just an animated movie where you had to hit the right button at the right time. But now, you could get this kind of game in your living room! Many people thought this would be the future of gaming. I mean, come on, why play a game like this when you could play a game that looked like real life? The problem with FMV games, however, was the gameplay. Boiling them down to their core, you just watch a movie and hit a button at the right time. While the general consensus is that the majority of these FMV games are pretty bogus, they were ahead of their time in some respects. Games like Detroit Become Human, Heavy Rain, and all the Telltale stuff are basically all movies you can play. The difference is, these games have loads more things to keep them interesting. They're actually interactive, you can move around. They're much longer and have branching storylines that make your decisions change how the plot unfolds. However, no other interactive movie will ever have the sheer legacy that the FMV game to end all FMV games has. Night Trap, the interactive horror movie that's responsible for you needing your mom to be with you to buy the latest Call of Duty. The year was 1986. Tom Zito is developing a video game console utilizing VHS tapes instead of cartridges or discs. It would have played interactive movie-type games and presumably could have simply attached to your pre-existing VCR, making it more appealing cost-wise compared to other systems at the time. The system was codenamed the Nemo, short for Never Ever Mention Outside, but was later referred to as the Control Vision. To aid him in crafting some demos for the system, Rob Fullo and James Riley created the prototype game Scene of the Crime. This was a pretty simple game utilizing multiple surveillance cameras that you had to shift through in order to find out who the culprit was. After presenting the system in demo to Hasbro, they received full funding to continue working on the device and games. The idea of monitoring surveillance cameras from Scene of the Crime stuck and would eventually turn into Night Trap, a game all about swapping between cameras to trap those pesky these things before they escape. Night Trap was shot in 1987, directed by Riley. It was intentionally campy, and that was a part of the charm. The project required strict time management and continuity between shots due to the surveillance camera concept. They didn't have 8 different cameras set up in the 8 different locations featured in the game. No, they had to, say, shoot the bedroom scenes, then the bathroom scenes, then the kitchen scenes. So just a character walking from one room to another was a lot more complicated than you may think. But in the end, Night Trap was successfully finished and was set to release alongside the Control Vision in 1989. Yeah, the cost for producing Night Trap and Sewer Shark, another FMV game made for the system, both were far greater than Hasbro ever wanted them to be. Also, the pure cost of the Control Vision system itself was far too high to release it in the market. It just didn't make financial sense, and thus it was cancelled and the games were shelved. However, Zito bought the title's rights, started his own FMV game-based company called Digital Pictures, and made a deal with Sega to release Night Trap on the Sega CD. It did okay. Until it was burned at the stake by the US government, and then it sold like crazy. Night Trap, alongside Mortal Kombat, was a key example shown depicting video game violence during a congressional hearing, the same congressional hearing that would lead to the creation of the ESRB rating system. They mostly focused on the infamous bathroom scene, where this gal gets her neck pumped. It's weird, because during development, Hasbro had specific orders to ensure Night Trap would not feature any reproducible violence. For example, these waddling guys were originally supposed to be ninjas attacking the house, but that could have been negatively impressionable on children, so they made these guys act like this and use this claw-looking thing. However, apparently this concerned mother thought that watching this scene would turn all schoolyard boys into Sega CD playing murderers, and nobody wants to see their son play the Sega CD or become a murderer. It just shows how uninformed everybody was during this hearing. Like, they all talked as if the goal in the game is to kill these women, when it's to save them. The people who worked on Night Trap were all pretty surprised by the backlash, especially James Riley. Afterwards, Night Trap was smacked with the same rating as Phoenix Wright Dual Destinies, was later ported to the Sega CD 32X, 3DO, some computers, and that's about it. Night Trap's legacy was basically nothing more than how the original Sega CD release stirred so much controversy. That's all people really knew it for, and it was difficult to imagine it being known for much else due to it getting increasingly harder and harder to play in the modern age. That was until Screaming Villains re-released the game in commemoration of its anniversary. Night Trap 25th Anniversary Edition released on PlayStation 4 in 2017 and is the definitive version of the game. Everything's been retooled and remastered, with loads of extras here as well. A great recollection by James Riley himself on the development of the game, courtesy of My Life in Gaming, a 1995 documentary on the controversy, and even a playable version of Scene of the Crime, which is great. The physical version was released by Limited Run Games and even features a reversible cover. This side is more true to the original box of the game, while the other looks like the version after the ESRB rating. I personally prefer the original. It really sells the whole B-movie shtick. This version just looks like she's saying, "Can you believe this?" Anyways, this is how the original version on Sega CD looked. It's pretty obvious that if you want to be fully immersed in the Night Trap experience, you really need to play the 25th Anniversary Edition with its non-Sega CD visuals. You can adjust the layout of the game to be more akin to the various re-releases over the years, but we're going to be sticking to the 2017 version. So Night Trap works like this. We have 8 different locations to monitor for these waddlers called augurs. Your goal is to trap as many of them as possible, and to do that you just have to select the room they're in, wait for this bar to flash red, and then BAM! Commit a felony. However, a handful of times characters will mess with the access code to the traps. They'll change it to another color, so you have to change your code to that specific color. The color they choose is always random and is more than seamless.
No, not that again.
Come on, Studley, we better change that code. How about red? Sure.
Yup, that's the gameplay of Night Trap. The most complicated it gets is changing the access code color. And even then, that only happens like 4 times in a playthrough. And if you'll excuse me, I'm going to beat the game and then explain the plot. Holy shit, what the hell was that? Just to figure out what was going on, I had to do research and watch some edits of the game online that actually turned it into a coherent movie. But I think I got it. And here's the gist. So there's this house, right? I'm already on board. This vampire family runs it, but nobody knows they're vampires. A bunch of teens were last seen there and have since gone missing, so these guys are like, whoa, there's something fishy going on there. We better send out our best to investigate. Yup, the girl from Different Strokes. So this vampire family is trying to lure teens in their house by getting their daughter to have a slumber party and invite some over, including Kelly, the undercover agent. These things called augurs are all over the house. They're like vampires that need blood and use these nifty nabbers to get it from people's necks since they're super weak, so there is an official canonical reason why they all waddle. The traps in the house are set up for the vampire family to trap the teens, but the control team hacked into it, so you have to use the traps against them. The girls are all oblivious to the augurs and the family's vampiric tendencies, and I can't blame them. I only found out about halfway through.
Yay! Sarah, what is this?
No, they're vampires.
Sarah, we're in this huge house with all your friends. We have telephones, we have a car, your parents are gone, and you say soap?
Come on, Sarah, what's the first thing you think of?
Party!
Ah, so no parents, no rules equates to this. It works better without music. One of the girl's little brother is one of the first to come in contact with the augurs, and man, I don't know. This guy's constipated and weed whacking inside. What's the big deal?
Come on, we gotta get out of here, they're after us.
You start all conversations like that? Hey, look, we've made it to the infamous bathroom scene. Now that's what I call a resume builder. Eventually, Kelly figures out that these things in the family are vampires, so then it's a bunch of eek, yikes, and holy shit. Fucking vampires.
Who are you?
We're scat.
That's me! The parents end up returning alongside the SCAT team, raiding the house, demanding answers.
I don't think you understand, Mr. Martin, but you're in serious trouble here.
You can't arrest a vampire? They end up fighting the family, but eventually you're able to trap them all. Yeah, bullets can't stop this guy, but not the wall trap! There are multiple endings, some where Kelly is bitten by one of the family members, and a few positive ones where you capture most or all of the bad guys, and even one where you can capture Kelly at the very end. And that's basically Night Trap, and you may ask, oh, why did you have such a hard time following the plot? It seems as simple as, Vampires. Here's the thing, the plot looks like this while you're playing the game.
What are we going to do with the...
For a game that has so much full motion video, touting it has over an hour and a half of it, Night Trap slaps the video out of your hand, wagging its finger and saying, "No, you have to watch these fucking gremlins waddling around." If you actually want to beat the game or even get far in it at all, you can only watch for the augers. All of this is a distraction. But that isn't fun. It's literally like watching all your friends play outside without you. Like, man, I wish I could actually watch these clips, but instead I have to wait for these fucking dopes to walk by so I can trap them. If you spend more than 5 seconds on a clip of people talking and, you know, describing what's actually going on, you just missed like 5 augers, and you're inevitably gonna get a game over. The main goal is to get all 100 captures. You can get around 70 or so to beat the game, but a handful of the captures are required and result in immediate game over if you don't trap them. It's just that 100 captures is so many, they just keep on coming. There's no room to sit down and just follow the plot. Most of the time, you're just watching these clips over and over again. It's all just a memory game and requires a ton of replays if you want to beat it purely. And Jesus, the original version didn't even have previews of what's going on in each room. You just had to hop around aimlessly. Beating the game from start to finish takes 25 minutes if you know exactly what to do, which after consulting a walkthrough is what I did, so you can officially consider me a Night Trap speedrunner now. I enjoy Night Trap as a novelty and as a campy B-movie, but as an actual game, I hate it. Like I said, to play the game correctly, you have to ignore the main piece of entertainment you can derive from this game, which is the campy story scenes. You may say, that's a part of the game design. It's about not getting distracted and honing in on the main goal, which is protecting the girls and capturing the augers. Yeah, I get that, but it doesn't make it any less boring and tedious. I guess that's part of the appeal for some people, knowing that there's no way to see everything from the game on one playthrough. Night Trap is neither a game or a movie. It's kind of its own thing. And I have a lot more respect for the game than I think a lot of other people do. For what it tries to pull off, I think it did a fairly decent job, especially for the late 80s, early 90s. The problem is, as an interactive experience, it's not nearly as enjoyable to play or watch as you'd want it to be. If you want the campiness, go watch a cut of the game on YouTube. You'll actually understand what's going on. Well, that blew. Seriously, Night Trap and the Sega CD. I should be completely pissed out by now, but no, the pissometer remains incomplete. Halloween will never be the same until it's filled.
Hey Scott, it's Dr. Bill. It's my honor to tell you you have a urinary tract infection.
Hey y'all, Scott here, quick. What's the first thing you think of when you think mysterious? Mysteries, right. There are so many questions in life that are left unanswered, like what's the point, why bother, and who cares? That's why I'm scouring the closet for answers to gaming's greatest mysteries, like, didn't Luigi say f***ing Mario Golf? Alright, we have the answer to why the Xbox One cases are the way they are, and oh hey, check this out, it's my first fan art of Madden. Okay, and yeah, I got invited to a dinner party by Chet Shaft. He used to be my manager when I worked at Games on a Shelf, and then I quit / ran the store out of business. I think I put this with all the other letters I don't want to deal with. You have been cordially invited to a dinner party celebrating us all making it this far in life. I knew living would get me somewhere someday. I mean, me and Chet aren't friends. We're more so he fucking hates me friends. But this dinner party seems to be an apology for lashing out at me. You think you know how to run a business? I know a guy with a NASA shirt, okay? I earned this job! I miss the lack of drama. I should probably stop by for just a bit. Now, under normal circumstances, that means no stupid Nintendo game talk. I'm gonna be a little too busy at the dinner party. But I thought ahead. I pre-recorded myself talking about gaming mysteries.
Hey y'all, Scott here.
Oh god, I sound like that? As a player of all things video games, I think it's fair to say I deserve answers. Mysteries are what keeps humanity at the edge of their seats. It's absolutely terrifying knowing you don't know something. Is the Loch Ness Monster real or was it just a fist? But with video games, these things can be so complex and have such lengthy histories to them that either some things are just left unexplained or theories and urban legends arise. These mysteries can range from, can you jump the flagpole in Super Mario Bros. To, is Luigi fucking dead? One of the most notorious urban legends in video games was with Super Mario 64 and Luigi in that game, and it wasn't whether he said fuck or not because this isn't Mario Golf. He wasn't even there. See, up until Mario 64, we've had a pretty good ratio of games with Luigi to games without Luigi. He was playable in all the mainline Marios prior to 64. And then priorities shifted and Luigi wasn't playable. He didn't appear in the game whatsoever, not even mentioned. So of course speculation started to get a little wild, and I still have my picket sign from the protests. Why wasn't Luigi in Mario 64? Was he just that well hidden in the game? Well, ever since the game launched, many fans noticed this sign in the courtyard of Peach's castle. Now, under normal circumstances, it's gibberish, but when we slide the Virgin Gogs on, we can make out that it potentially says L is real 2401. Now, what does that mean?
No sex for me, thanks.
Many took this as a hint, proof that Luigi was real alright and he was in Mario 64 after all. So let's dissect this phrase. L is real 2401. Well, Luigi is real, and the only thing in Mario 64 with a number that high would be the number of coins in the entire game. After all, you get a star for collecting 100 coins in each level. That lends credibility to the fact there could be a reward for collecting every single coin in the whole game, and that reward would be related to the letter L. Problem is, there isn't 2,401 coins in Mario 64, so that's a problem. And as a bonus, collecting them all doesn't do anything. However, we can look into this even harder. L is real 2401 may just correlate to Paper Mario's release on the Nintendo 64. Luigi was real in that game, I saw him. And 2401 was the release date in North America. Kinda. So he didn't release on February 4th, 2001, it released on February 5th, 2001. Well, if this theory holds any truth, then Nintendo knew what the general release date of Paper Mario was gonna be back when Super Mario 64 released. That terrifies me. Why were they planning that far ahead? What were their goals? So why is L real 2401? I have no idea, and frankly, this black is so blurry that you can come up with various other phrases it may look like. It's one of those things where since a lot of people were told it reads L is real 2401, that's what a lot of people see. I don't know what the Aka Room people's deal is. Luigi was planned for Mario 64 in a potential multiplayer mode, but was pushed off to the side. He was playable in the remake Super Mario 64 DS though. All of life's problems are solved when a character's playable in Mario 64 DS. Now, a lot of mysteries within gaming can be classified under conspiracy theories. Like, was Link dead throughout the entirety of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask?
No.
It was between this and the moon landing. I chose believing the less supported one. Majora's Mask is one dark Zelda title, and most dads would not let their daughters date this game. It's creepy, it's depressing, and many have discovered how the story of the game correlates with death, what happens before and after death, dealing with death, and many have theorized that Link himself was dead and the entire game is basically his afterlife. There are lots of theories like this in games, some of which have turned out to be true, like how Super Mario Bros. 3 was supposed to be a play. You see how it opens up with a curtain rising, various platforms cast a shadow and have bolts on them like they were constructed as part of a set. Whenever a level ends, it's almost as if Mario was running off stage. This was a fan theory for the longest time until it was actually confirmed by Shigeru Miyamoto. Now, if this was an actual play, I could sit down and watch. Who wrote this?
Oh, hey y'all, Scott Wozniak, dinner party are here.
Jeb, vegan.
Terry Lessler, veganer.
Officer Steelwool, justice supporter.
Rex Mose, school dance chaperone and historian.
Wendy's employee.
Oh, so how do you all know Chet?
He was a former vegan. Then he bought milk.
That son of a bitch!
I pulled him over for money laundering.
I'm chaperoning his dinner party.
He stole a Baconator. That son of a bitch!
I tanked the story managed and he convinced me to quit one of the only jobs I ever had. Now I'm living off of unemployment checks in fear.
Hi, Chet Shaft, former Games on a Shelf manager, current doer of all things nothing. Welcome to the Shaft Family Estate's first annual dinner party, my largest priority at the moment. Due to some prior obligations, I can't be there with you tonight, but please feel free to help yourself to an old Shaft family recipe.
This is Jimmy John's.
But then we go from theories to just the unexplained. Parts of games that were just never understood and remained elusive for so long. In GoldenEye 007, on the very first level, players noticed a building in the distance. You can just barely see it, and rumors floated around about being able to grab a boat and make your way over there, potentially getting some rewards. But no, this area is more or less placed there for show. While the developer's original intent was exactly what fans speculated, it was scrapped and just kept there as a scene setter. If that island didn't exist, the immersion would crumble. Everybody has their happy place. They wouldn't make the t-shirts if that wasn't the case, and mine is Shiverburn Galaxy in Super Mario Galaxy 2. Such a fun level. There's fire and ice. Can't ask for much more than this. Sometimes I like to hit up to go into first-person view and look up at the mountains. Everybody has their happy place, and mine is Fleet Glide Galaxy in Super Mario Galaxy 2. These ominous figures appear in Shiverburn Galaxy if you look up in first person. 3 beings just looking at you throughout the entire level. It doesn't matter where you are, as long as you can look up at the mountains, they'll be there watching you. Now in Super Mario 3D Land, at the end of World 4-4, if you wait around, someone or something will fade in and fade out. Shiverburn Galaxy, I can sort of see these guys as a weird little thing accidentally getting thrown into the game. You know, they're inkblot tests. In 3D Land, this was a completely deliberate addition where one of the developers said, I want to make some kids shit themselves.
The Shaft family would like to express their gratitude to all attendees of the dinner party tonight. Terry Lessler and Jet, thank you for your strong acts of veganism. Carrots wouldn't be the same without you. Rick Mose, without you, I wouldn't be an alcoholic.
It's Rex!
Officer Steel Wool, thank you for your years of service. Wendy's employee, thank you for your years of service. And Scott, without you, I wouldn't have lost my job at Games on a Shelf. Thank you, everybody. Please, help yourself to a complimentary table knife and dig in. He's dead!
Alright, listen guys, I'm not one to leave the party early, but when people start getting murdered, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah, somebody's been murdered. Yeah. Yeah, can you pick that up on the way home?
No, okay, we can leave. Okay, Chet said the party's over at 9. He's f***ing dead. We at least owe him this.
I'll stay. I'm free.
Listen, we can get the murder stench out of here by listening to some good old-fashioned video game mysteries.
Yeah, of course, let's talk a series with just as many mysteries as it has dead civilians.
Somebody f***ing died!
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas has a little bit of something for everybody. Gunplay, driving, not Bigfoot. The existence of Bigfoot in San Andreas has always been a huge rumor. Apparently within the forest, you could find Bigfoot lurking around.
This is also a game where ghost cars can chase after you.
A developer on the game stated that Bigfoot was in there at one point, but he was told to take it out for the final release. However, there's supposedly a 10% chance of seeing Bigfoot. There's also no Bigfoot model in the game's code, so I don't know about this one.
Alright, so we all hated Chet, right?
Yeah.
He's a born-again carnivore, he's led many to unemployment, he's money laundered, he's wronged all of us. Who's to say one of us isn't the killer?
That's right. If we can't leave, we might as well find out who viciously murdered Chet.
Oh, I love puzzles.
Guys, listen, one of us may be a murderer, but we're all human at the end of the day. Let's just listen to some gaming mysteries about Luigi and call it a night.
Wasn't that the guy who said f***ing Mario Golf?
Luigi's Mansion, f***ing scary, right? It's my go-to box art to piss myself to. Well, there are a few parts of the game that have some sinister and chilling implications. Like, that is what you call a dead baby. But there was one part in the third area of the game. After a bolt of lightning strikes, we can see Luigi's shadow is hanging in the air, implying that Luigi is hanging himself. Now, was this an intentionally chilling addition to the game, or was it a glitch due to the game's camera being at an angle it's not usually used to, which accidentally pushed Luigi's shadow up higher than usual? Huh.
This is great. It's like a murder mystery with the murder and the mystery.
You're taking this pretty well, man.
Who's to say you're not the killer? You're acting pretty carefree right now for someone whose life's at stake.
It's a murder, not a tax audit. We'll be fine.
Well, what about the Wendy's employee? Nobody ever suspects the Wendy's employee.
Well, what about Steel Wool? He has a gun.
Jim has a knife.
Yeah, for fun, not for murder.
Guys, deep down, we can all be a murderer if we want. So let's just get down to the bottom of this. By a show of hands, who here murdered Chet? Damn it.
Some mysteries aren't too sinister and were just unknown aspects of games, like jumping the flagpole in Super Mario Bros. I mean, when I played this game, I would sometimes think, I'm gonna do it. And guess what? I've never been able to live that down. This game is engineered to make it hard to jump over the flagpole. I mean, it makes sense. What does anybody gain from that? Now, a famous level where you can do that is 3-3. With these platforms, it's more than possible to waste an afternoon. But the one people were always wondering about was World 1-1, the very first level. Is it possible? Yes, it is. F you, Nintendo. It's all due to a glitch here. We gotta stand on this block here and wait for the Koopa Troopa to fall down the hole. Jumping up here at the right moment will hit him. And then he'll come back and we have to follow him to the end of the level while grabbing a mushroom. Then we jump at the right moment to jump off of him to get over the flagpole. There are lots of glitches that have their own mystery behind them, like with Pokemon Red and Blue with the Pokemon Missing No, which stands for missing number. It's a glitch where the game basically has no idea what Pokemon should appear, but it's kind of taken on a life of its own. People refer to Missing No as if it's an actual Pokemon when it's just a jumble of code. Super Smash Bros. Melee's Daisy trophy has a third eye on the back of her head. I mean, I wasn't expecting that, but I'm not surprised.
Listen, maybe the murderer isn't one of us. Maybe the murderer's hiding somewhere in the building. We should split up into groups. That way, we can't all get murdered.
I like it. Feeling lucky tonight.
Okay, so if any of you die, you have to tell me, okay?
Wait, look!
It looks like whoever the killer is
Had dark hair.
Well, good, that narrowed it down a bit.
Final Fantasy VII features the death of Aerith. However, many rumors floated around about being able to stop that from happening and keep her in your party. You cannot. A lot of these mysteries are formed by what fans want to see, or what the game says and just never elaborates on. Street Fighter 2, Ryu says the infamous phrase, "You must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance." Now, I'm sure the localization team at the time said, "Oh yeah, people will like this. It really makes Ryu seem determined to win." When in reality, everybody said, "Who the fuck is Shenlong?" It was a mistranslation of Ryu stating, "If you cannot overcome the Shoryuken, you cannot win." There was a lot of mystery surrounding who Shenlong was for the longest time, with the magazine EGM just refusing to put out the flames. They were well known for their April Fool's hoaxes, and one of them happened to be details on how to find Shenlong and some background to the character. Capcom themselves have joked about the character, fake announcing him for Street Fighter 4, and similarly, the original Mortal Kombat featured some extra code, Ermax, and many thought Ermac was a secret character. They added him eventually.
Alrighty, so now that we're all alone, we're all friends here.
Who the fuck are you?
We're just gonna cut to the chase. Were you the murderer?
The only thing I kill is not abstinence.
So it's possible you killed him.
That's impossible. I hate murder.
So do I, but you don't see me bragging about it.
You know, that's it. I've had it. Good luck not murdering people. Murderers.
Tomb Raider was infamous for the rumor of the nude code, a secret cheat code that would make the character Lara Croft completely nude for players 13 and up. Yeah, that just doesn't work. Lara Croft was a sex symbol in gaming, and the idea of a PlayStation 1 character naked, well, who doesn't like that? The developers always teased fans about the code, making it obvious that it was very unlikely it actually existed, but never fully denying its existence either, obviously to keep people desperately wondering. It was later confirmed that a nude code never existed.
Yeah, I know I might get murdered tonight, but I don't care. Who the f*** ever thought this was real?
I died.
Bone cancer. The murderer not only killed Chet, but peer pressured Jevin to death.
He was like that when I got here.
Sonic CD features a sound test option after inputting a code. When we're at the sound test, we can listen to all the sounds and music in the game, and if we select these specific options and hit start, I just wanted to listen to music. This screen is infamous and incredibly bizarre. We have 24 Sonics with a human face. Somebody wanted this. Now, of course, with the mustache, it's obvious this is supposed to be Sonic fused with Mario. The Japanese text translates to "Fun is Infinite, Sega Enterprises, image by Majin." Now, Majin apparently means the devil. I knew something was up with this game. In actuality, Majin refers to Masato Nishimura, as Majin was his childhood nickname. So it's fine. The screen is fine. I mean, it's not like the screen is gonna kill me at a dinner party or anything, so it's fine.
It's a common saying.
The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past's biggest mystery for many people was the existence of the Chris Houlihan room, a room named after the winner of a Nintendo Power contest. You can get to it in a few different ways, and it's just filled with rupees. Yeah, that's cool or whatever. I want to see him in Smash Brothers as much as the next guy, but what about a secret that's not only in a Zelda game, but numerous other Nintendo games as well? Totaka's Song is a little ditty normally hidden in games composed by Kazumi Totaka. Luigi's Mansion, Mario Paint, Link's Awakening, Yoshi's Story, Mario Land 2, it's hidden in so many games. But there are a few games Totaka has worked on where it still hasn't been found. Many have thought the sound of the tennis ball hitting the racket in Wii Sports was Totaka's Song. If you play each hit together, it may sound like it, but that may be due to your brain telling you to think it's playing Totaka's Song. Weirdly enough, a game he straight up directed Wii Music apparently doesn't have Totaka's Song in there at all. I mean, it may be hiding in there, but I think we know everything Wii Music ever had to say. It has nothing to hide.
Pretty cool, right?
Ah, shit, Terry's dead.
Great. Now there's only 4 people listening.
Now there's only one thing more addictive than reading actual mysteries about video games.
Nicotine?
Reading fake mysteries about video games. The creepypasta is big here on the internet. It's all about using one of these to scare the fuck out of some kids. These are internet scary stories, and lots of them have to do with video games. They almost always have to do with some kid buying a used copy of a game and it's haunted. There's disturbing imagery and weird things happening while playing the game. What the hell are these ghost priorities?
Alright, we should just call the police already. We should just draw from a hat. Figure out who's the murderer.
Yeah, I'm getting real tired of trying to figure out who the murderer is. If somebody just wants to step up and be the murderer so we can all go home, I'm all for it.
Alright, Scott, Steel Wolf.
Rex, you're dead.
But while creepypastas are fake mysteries about video games, how about real-life mysteries about video games? In 2007, Madden 08 released to the masses, but weirdly enough, it got prequels each year prior. Madden 1999 released and was the first one to do so without Uncle Madden on the cover. No. This one featured an athlete, and it's been a tradition for almost every athlete who made the Madden cover to soon after get injured. This is the Madden curse, and if we're not careful enough, it'll get us too.
Who would have thought Madden on your chest could lead to injuries? Maybe there's a gas leak or something. Maybe that's why everybody's dying. Thanks, I was talking. Oh shit, it was you! Take off your mask, who are you? I never would have guessed!
It's time to meet your end.
Getting murdered is the least of my concerns right now. Why did you do it?
Shet deserved it. He wandered. I was too shy to mention that I was the one that killed him, so I thought it'd be easier to kill everyone.
Really? 5 homicides and that's your reason?
Make that 6.
You ever hear of the Madden curse?
Oh, my foot!
I did it. I solved the mystery.
I have seen a lot of murders in my day, and all 6 of them were today. The guys are all getting treated for murder at the hospital. They should all be fine. I'm pretty happy nothing happened to me, though. I have jury duty tomorrow, which means I can't die. If I don't show up, I'll go to prison.
Hey y'all, Scott here. I know what it looks like. I wasn't looking for a pumpkin. I was looking for grass. Oh, wow. Okay, fine. I couldn't take it anymore. Just yesterday, I was doing a live.
I've had enough of this!
And I decided to finally buy a pumpkin. Grass families live around here.
Oh. Welcome to the Lessler Pumpkin Orchard, where pumpkins are a specialty, orchards a close second.
Whoa, vegan Terry Lessler running a non-permitted pumpkin patch.
Can you name a more vegan crime?
I've been a gourd user for a while, looking to make an upgrade.
Never bought a pumpkin before. What are you carving during the fall then?
I'm mainly using watermelons.
Well, we do offer conversion therapy.
Nah, I think I'm good. I'll buy that one. I'll buy that one. That is a nice-ass pumpkin.
Oh, this is just a rental.
No, I'm looking to own.
You really think you're ready to go in raw and own a pumpkin? It's a lot of responsibility. Maybe you should start with a goldfish or something.
No, ever since I was a kid, I pledged that by the time I'm 17, I would own a pumpkin. I'm 23 now, and I've gotten nothing done over the past 6 years because this has been at the top of my to-do list. Let's get this over with.
Perfect. We'll do a background check. You'll be the first you to own a pumpkin.
Yes. I'll pick that one, the orange one.
You want the 2-year warranty?
I hate the metric system. How many hours is that?
And I run a pumpkin patch, not a clock. All right, just tell me when.
That's good.
Alrighty, so here's gonna be your paperwork.
Can I have my ID back?
And your passport, mugshot, and watch, and you take care of that thing.
Good stuff. You are currently looking at a registered pumpkin owner. Sure, I've dabbled in owning foam decoratory pumpkins in the past, but those I would just throw out after the season was over. These ones, completely different. This one's real. I asked if there was any pumpkin regulations in the county. I can't quarter it in a time of peace. I said I didn't want it after that, but I already took the cellophane off. My first real pumpkin! And to celebrate, I decided to invite all pumpkin users in the area, throw a bit of a pumpkin party. I hope that isn't slang. Terry should be happy to see how this pumpkin's doing, and plus 4 years from now I'll be throwing my first party, so I think I'm ready to throw another one right now. I think I'm finally ready to present myself in front of the pumpkin demographic. Damn it. Okay, maybe I should make this more of a half pumpkin, half Halloween party. I don't want to make an ass out of myself in front of the pumpkin fandom, so I'll distract them by making it more of a Halloween party. All I have to do is come up with a scary costume. I have had this list for over 4 hours and have never acted upon it. See, I could go with somebody who's owned a pumpkin before. My cover will be blown. I could go with somebody who ate a fucking Wii. Maybe next year. Oh, wow, that's the scariest one. Of course, I could also go as memory card talker, but I go as that year round. Alright, I'm just gonna need some materials for this costume. Okay, customers also bought memory cards. I can go as 2 things, f*** Happy Halloween. What do you do when you're playing a video game but you have to get up and exist? Well, you can leave the thing on for days on end until you're ready to not do anything again, but what if you have a power outage? The cord gets unplugged, you have this nervous tick where you just have to go and ruin everything. Your game gets reset, and you have to restart everything from the very beginning. I can't think of anything worse. Anything. You have to be protected in case something like this occurs, so bring in the memory cards, the gaming contraceptive. Saving your progress in a game is something we all take for granted nowadays. Remember when games didn't save at all? The only way to beat them was to play them all in one go. From start to finish, you had to experience what it's like to be depressed. Some games started using passwords. Get to a certain point in the game, write down the password it gave you, enter that in, next time you boot it up, bam, right back where you left off. But right after they made the English language, they went, oh man, they're gonna make Metroid, aren't they? Oh, zeros, capital O's, lowercase o's, ones, capital I's, lowercase l's. Sure, in the game itself, they're distinct enough, but when you're writing down a password, you'll probably just use whatever your brain thinks would be funny. Why couldn't God make the O look like this? And these passwords could be ass long, like I didn't know these many spaces existed. Sometimes you'd get passwords with icons to use. That immediately makes things a problem for the artistically challenged out there. What are you talking about? That's a squiggle, not a sigma. So to pick up where you left off in games, you either had to keep the game console running indefinitely, or something you have to explain to your parents. I don't want them thinking I play Mega Man 4. What is this? Coordinates for a bomb. Plus, what kind of passwords are these? Like, you try to get into a club and they ask, what's the password? C764. Something had to change because neither one of these methods were particularly ideal. I mean, I'd rather have passwords than not have passwords, but I'd rather have blood than not have blood. Doesn't mean I like blood. Talking about memory cards, one sec. So in came The Legend of Zelda for the Nintendo Entertainment System, featuring a battery built into the cartridge which allowed it to save your data, which became a luxury for many games. If your NES game came with the ability to save like this, you knew the company cared so hard about you. The following generation, saving this way became more of a standard across the board. Most of Nintendo's Super Nintendo titles had battery saves built in. Many third-party games still used passwords. Sega took a while to catch up on the Genesis, but by the end of this generation, being able to save your game was the hip thing to do. But here's the issue. There's a reason not all games adopted the battery to save data to the cartridge. It cost money to do that, and some people can't stomach supporting Duracell. Each game would need a battery backup, and that battery eventually runs out after a couple decades, so eventually there'll be no evidence of me playing Mario World the night of some murder. And I have a soft spot for alibis. Plus, with the industry quickly shifting from using cartridges to CDs, you couldn't really feasibly save data to this. I mean, battery, CD, something had to change. Well, what if you could save the data to something else? Oh, I thought you were another door.
Am I the first to arrive?
Yes.
Yeah, so I brought some pumpkins for discussing. Got this one that's orange, and this one's really orange.
You know, I was thinking we could make this a half pumpkin party, half actual Halloween party.
What the hell's Halloween?
Well, just step outside, change into a scary costume, and you'll be fine. What are you, a meat eater?
A person.
Oh yeah, I can tell by the hat. Well, feel free to not say anything until the others arrive.
Oh, what the hell? I give you a pumpkin for well under a year and you turn it into memory cards?
No, those are just memory cards for the GameCube.
For the GameCube?
Here, let me explain. Memory cards gave you the ability to save games to a choking hazard. I mean, it made perfect sense. With these, you wouldn't have to worry about cramming a save feature into the game itself. Just force the consumer to deal with it. This way, no game had an excuse. If they were on a console with a memory card, yup, they had a save feature. Unless you didn't own a memory card. I think we've all been in that situation. You own a console for a bit, but you don't have a memory card, so you just kind of play the game you have, but you can't save, so hey, let's just keep playing from the beginning. Of course, that's how most NES games were, but I owned a GameCube and didn't get a memory card until a couple months in. I am an expert on watching the opening to Battle for Bikini Bottom, but once you actually got a card, oh my god, my options skyrocketed. I can save. You know, memory cards actually first appeared on the Neo Geo AES. I don't give a shit. You can save your data onto it and then bring it to a Neo Geo arcade cabinet, plug it in, pick up where you left off, which is a killer plus to using memory cards. You can bring them anywhere. Your saved data can always be with you. Make a necklace out of it. There's a lot of memories you can dig up on one of these, especially if they were never owned by you. Look at all these game saves, preserved for us all to point and laugh at. I mean, the term memory card can mean two different things. It saves game files, sure, but it also saves memories. This was my childhood GameCube memory card. Yeah, I got the Mad Cat 16X, not the official Nintendo produced one. These came with carrying cases. so much better. Oh man, I wish each P had a sock. Owning a Mad Catz memory card should have put me on track to buy a Thrasher shirt, but here we are. This was what my mom bought after I sort of begged for a memory card, so then I didn't have to watch that damn opening cutscene for the 67th time. And I think we really hit it out of the park first try. 16x, what does that mean? It has it, and a lot of it. There was more than enough space on this one to store any and all save data I could ever dream of. I can't believe I didn't get stuck with the 1x. 59 blocks of storage, I would be disgusted if I knew how much that was. Yeah, some game consoles refer to storage as blocks. I think they were trying to simplify things, but honest to God, it made even more no sense. Just use typical memory storage terms. Just say megabytes. No mom hears blocks compared to megabytes and goes, oh, I have this many blocks remaining. What does that mean? I could say you were better off buying the official memory cards made by the console manufacturers themselves, but why would I? These aren't like third-party controllers where like, yeah, if they're cheaper, you can really feel it. This one's made of gum. Memory cards you cram in the console and never think of again. Oh, but this one looks blue and smells funny. You can get by with any type of memory card. That's the beautiful thing. These brands are all of equal value. Sometimes memory cards would come with games, like with Animal Crossing. You got a GameCube memory card free of charge. Made sense considering Animal Crossing required a ton of space to save, so you pretty much needed a memory card just for it. But hey, it's an Animal Crossing themed memory card, just like how I have an Animal Crossing themed thigh. It's a sticker. That's it. You can theme anything to be Animal Crossing this way, but I appreciate the sentiment. I'm surprised there weren't more special edition memory cards. I mean, they existed. Here's Spider-Man crawling out of his grave. However, most of the time, you just have to choose between cards of different size capacities and colors. But just the fact different colors were offered really baffles me as to why there weren't more grave digging options.
So, cool bullshit, right? I don't know. Is it really worth neglecting your pumpkin for so long that it can save guys?
I can't help it the pumpkin dies. All the bees flew south for the winter. Pollination's over.
Wait, this isn't the right pumpkin.
Oh yeah, it's over there.
Looking good. Got any plans for this guy?
I was thinking we could bob for apples, but with this instead. Alright, you can feel free to stop not saying anything. Got a pumpkin.
Oh god, we were supposed to bring pumpkins?
I was hoping the invitation would be cryptic in a good way.
Wait. Never mind.
So what are you supposed to be?
I was going for person, but everybody's going as that this year.
Oh, come on!
I thought I'd channel my inner Wendy's employee for my costume.
You are a Wendy's employee.
Is it really that convincing?
I have not heard the word pumpkin since 67 words ago.
I could definitely swing with saying pumpkin. Say this one!
Now with the boom on these things, many companies had some kind of revelation, like they needed to innovate every possible thing. Like, you know how some shoes have software updates now? For the Sega Dreamcast, the memory cards for this system were dubbed VMUs, Visual Memory Units. They were memory cards, sure, but they had a screen and buttons and were their own mini game console. Of course, with that screen, that meant in multiplayer games, you could see things that were exclusive to you, so Sega could tell me where the antidote was. And then you could unplug the VMU, take it on the go, and play little mini games. It's amazing this idea wasn't ever fully replicated. It's pretty cool, but it's pretty worthless, so that's pretty much why. Like, is this really necessary? This is just another battery you have to worry about, and what's the point when you look over at the PlayStation 2 and that used a fucking saltine for its memory card and everybody in the world owned 2 of them? The closest the console got to replicating this idea of your own personal screen had Mario Tennis on it, I'll give it that.
Whoa, I didn't know pumpkins could save game data.
They're truly God's favorite.
What are you, a doorway pirate?
No, I'm Gex. I thought he was depressed.
Whoa there, I'm gonna need to see some fruit.
How's this?
No. This?
Ugh.
This?
Language.
This? Yeah, it's a fucking pumpkin party, get in!
So memory cards pretty much stayed ass boring, but with the original Xbox, they started to become ass boring and obsolete. That system had a hard drive built in, which meant you didn't need a memory card, the game saved to the system. Now, you could buy a memory card if you wanted to back up your saves or bring your save files over to a separate Xbox, but who cares? You don't need a memory card to save games. This is a fucking party. I never used memory cards to bring my save data over from console to console. I only used them to save game data, so the idea that the Xbox saved it all to the system meant that an Xbox memory card existing is something scholars still don't get. Then with the Xbox 360, they continued this trend, but also allowed for the hard drive to be expanded. But you could still buy memory cards. Xbox 360 memory cards are some of the most worthless flicks of garbage I've ever seen. What's the point? each 360 had more than enough storage to save games, and if you needed more storage, then why spend all this money on a dinky-ass memory card when you could invest in a beefier hard drive that could save that much more? Look at these card sizes, 64 megabytes, 256 megabytes, 512 megabytes. Yeah, these could hold a flight, maybe. To be fair, this one comes with a digital copy of Worms and a carrying case that fits on a keychain. Okay, maybe that makes sense? I get the idea is so you can bring your files over to a friend's house, but this was the era of online gaming. It's obvious this was all fading away. I mean, the PlayStation 3 and Wii didn't have them. Sure, you could use GameCube memory cards on Wii when playing GameCube games, so some third-party memory cards said for Wii on them, when in reality they were just for GameCube and were preying on the people who didn't know any better. Not me. I'm immune. And what are you supposed to be?
You.
Whoa!
Not today.
That's not a pumpkin.
When I saw the invitation, I thought the P said P, the U said I, the M said N, the P said E, the K said A.
Listen, I don't want to hear any excuses.
I'm fruit blind.
Can't see fruit.
That poor bastard.
It just, you can't be here with that.
I have a permit. F***ing fruit blindness.
It was obvious things were moving in the direction of storage built into the consoles rather than relying on external cards. But wouldn't you know, at least the PlayStation Portable kept the dream alive. Oh, I thought it was a fingernail. Why does a handheld system need a memory card? Same problem with the PlayStation Vita. Early models didn't have any storage on it, any at all. And even though the games were now on cards, you still needed a memory card. And the PlayStation handheld memory cards are proprietary. They only work on these specific devices. You can't even use a PSP memory card on a Vita or vice versa. They were expensive too. Why couldn't they just use standard SD cards? The Nintendo 3DS did, and hell, the games mostly just saved to the cartridges themselves, which made things crazy simple. You could take a 3DS game you were playing on one system, pop it in another, and boom! The save data's all there and accounted for. Why can't everybody be like Nintendo 3DS game save files?
Alright, what do you guys say we pop some of these suckers in, get an insight to the previous owners?
Wouldn't be a pumpkin without a background check.
I always wanted to tour a pumpkin studio. It's f***ing freezing.
Well, let's see what we can discover. First off, my own memory card as a child. Look at this, with so many blocks to spare too. Yep, I went through a heavy Nickelodeon games phase growing up, but we have all the usual suspects here as well. Pac-Man fever and me doing nothing for the first 23 years of my life. How old am I? But this one actually came with a used copy of Luigi's Mansion I bought. The guy just forgot his memory card was inside the case. See, a lot of game cases come with inserts for memory cards, much like how most cups come with containers. So let's pop this one in here, and why not? Let's check out this one too. What?
Oh, that's odd. They're basically the same thing.
Yeah, like uncle and daughter.
Those are my two biggest fears.
Mine are isolation and Windows.
Okay, well, this one's gotta have something good on here. Look at it, this one has more in common with a bookmark than it does a memory card. Wind Waker save file, we gotta check this out. Must be code for the name Jim. So this one's gotta be good. There's nothing but Odama?
These aren't pumpkins, are they?
What was your first tell?
I knew it. Every time a pumpkin claims to save Geist data, it's always a scam.
How can I let this happen twice?
Right when we found these weren't pumpkins, I knew something was up.
Yeah, guys. Let's get out of here.
Probably just a rat. You know, the Xbox 360 surely has some terrible stuff on the memory card. Nothing haunted, mostly christened. Let's just plug it into the Xbox 360. Yes. Where's the memory card port? They took out memory card support in later 360 models. That's my Halloween costume next year.
You know what? I don't care. I'm gonna show this ghost what I'm made of.
Don't harass the ghost. They don't even know what harassment is.
Oh! Oh, not my leg day legs. I need them for leg days.
His hand is bleeding.
His eyes aren't blinking.
His lips are smiling.
His dead is showing.
Great. Now I'm never gonna be the first of 5 to die.
PlayStation 2, for God's sakes, give me something good here! We may be getting haunted, but I'm still disappointed. Some of these things are so old, they're bound to lose their spunk. What's more fun than looking through a memory card and seeing all these games that were played and all those cool little icons or animations made specifically for the memory card while also getting f***ed by ghosts? It's a really cute aspect of gaming.
This reminds me of being outside.
That's it. We need to get this thing outside.
Oh, the clouds, right?
Exactly.
The only way we're gonna be able to do that is to stun it with something. Stun it with something big, bold, orange. You son of a bitch.
All right, I'm gonna stun it. Rex, you throw it outside.
Take off your costume.
This is a room?
Thanks for coming. It was a fun party. And only one death. Listen, I'm sorry about...
Nope, not hearing it. That pumpkin had a whole bean of pumpkin in front of it. You know how old she was in pumpkin years?
Oh, that was a pumpkin? Thought you used a napkin.
What's fruit blindness like?
It's really funny. Until you have to identify fruit.
That pumpkin had it coming. It couldn't even be a watermelon.
You take that back.
Should we take him to a hospital? No, he's already dead. And gotta say, first time owning a pumpkin, not impressed.
It's not supposed to impress you. It's supposed to evolve you.
It's a fucking pumpkin, and destroying was the only way to stop possessed memory cards, Terry. I never wanted to be in the fandom anyways. I found one bad person, that means it's the worst! I'm going to bed. I've been practicing being angry in my sleep.
Every Friday night, I'm so sick and...
We kicked the demons out of you. What's your problem? Ah!
Wait. He's just sitting there. Like a pumpkin. No. I'm not gonna let my Wii get possessed by a pumpkin. Of all fruits, pumpkins need to be eaten, not enjoyed. Okay? You have them for 2 months out of the entire year, and then what? We're back to watermelons. No. Okay? I'm glad I got owning a pumpkin out of the way because it'll bump my credit score up. But for now, no. We need to end this, regardless of what body you possessed.
I ate the fucking Wii. Well, possessed memory cards took my Halloween party hostage, and then the pumpkin I used to knock the cards out repossessed the Wii the cards were in. Busy day. I wonder who owned these memory cards in the past. They may have died, but maybe that pumpkin taking things over might have played God and reverse engineered their souls. They might be back in business. Ghosts deserve some praise. It takes a lot of courage to be dead. You know, I might have been a bit hard on the pumpkins. You know, they remind me a bit of memory cards. This one's orange too. What a pumpkin means to those guys, memory cards mean to me. They're just such fun little experiences to have, with or without possession. And that's how you know you truly care about something. If you don't need possession to enjoy it.
Best of 2. No, I've given you more than enough chances. 1.
And you weren't willing to be my bitch.
I wasn't gonna make an exception for you. You never paid your bills, and as a bank, we have to treat everybody the same. It's our sworn duty to everyone over.
Come on, give me a break. Come on, I saved your wife from getting shot.
She's a convicted serial killer.
How can you expect me to get out of debt? I can't be employed. I'm unemployed.
You act like it's a religion.
More or less a kink.
Listen, you pay us back by tomorrow, you can have your stuff back.
How about you take this and we call it even?
I don't want your bribe.
I'll give you a 5 to want it.
Just go out there and make some money. It's so simple. Just start a successful business that sells a product that the market grows every day and there's not enough stores out there for it. A product that's everywhere that no one has. A product that'll never go out of style. Keep it cheap, cost effective, and on a budget.
Hey y'all, Scott here. I got 4 words, 3 syllables, and 1 mistake for you. Ghost for sale. Located at Fleeting Smiles Cemetery by Death Productions, you will need a membership to get in. Come on down and we'll set you up with a ghost. Try to find a store that's not Dollar Tree, do that. Act now and we'll give you a fresh ghost. The death market is huge, and I did the math. This is the hottest spot for it. So many damn ghosts who all need homes. These guys have been in stock for eons, things that have died ages ago, like Scott's financial stability. Everybody dabbles in death at some point. You can't tell me that this isn't the best way to repay the entirety of my debt in a day, and if you do, stop. It's time for the customers to line up. It is happy hour. I need this, I really do. I just want my stupid Nintendo games back. I deserve infertility. I just need to tip the edge off before my first big sale. But wait. Oh boy! Bullshit!
This is a tale of video game franchises that just wouldn't stay dead. You thought you could sleep well knowing Streets of Rage would never come back? It's been a tough year. Not everything lasts forever until it does again. Some gaming franchises will forever stand the test of time. There will always be a new iteration of Tetris, Mario, and Pokemon on the way because they aren't narc. These games will always sell. There's always a place for them. After Pokemon Blue, they said, well, we can't just stop there. But not every franchise is this lucky. Not all of them are surefire hits, and thus, they get shelved, buried, forgotten for years on end. Until it's time to play God. A revival, taking a dormant series and acting like nothing ever changed. It's Crash Bandicoot 4, the 8th game, 12 years later. Now, what constitutes as a revival? No, not this, that's just necrophilia. The terms reboot and revival are interchanged quite a bit, but I consider a reboot to be a fresh start, ignoring most of what came before and being something primarily made to appeal to newcomers. A revival is just that. It's picking up where the last game left off, let's say around 10 years ago. I feel like too many fans get antsy if it's been a year without a new game in their favorite franchise. In 2011, people were acting like Mega Man needed a revival when we just got Mega Man 10 the year prior. Now, to be fair, many Mega Man projects were being canceled around this time. Fans were worried, but there was no reason to be. Now, 6 years later, I'll give you that, but games are taking longer and longer to develop. There used to be a 6-year gap at the longest between mainline Elder Scrolls and Grand Theft Auto titles. Tell me more, Grandpa. So what, would Elder Scrolls 6 be considered a revival? Contra 4 was, and that came out 3 years after the last one. Well, I think the only way we can consider a game to be a revival is if it passes the Who test. Who? A series that, by most means, was forgotten by the time they decided to bring it back. XCOM was such an old PC-only series that died out by the early 2000s until they decided to bring it back in 2011. Fallout 3 released in 2008 with the last numbered entry launching a decade prior, and I guarantee you most people who bought these games never even heard of the original titles. While XCOM can be considered more of a reboot, Fallout 3 was exactly that, the next mainline entry in the Fallout series. This was a big deal, and with its insane critical and commercial success, it showcased that Dead series could have more life than initially thought. Rock Band 4.
Ow, my face! I use that at cemeteries!
Oh my god, I'm sorry!
Hey, watch it.
Oh, well, what brings you to the cemetery?
Just looking.
Oh, could I interest you in a ghost? We offer different sizes.
Nah, I already have a gun. I was just interested in a job.
Same, that's why I have one.
Come on, I got let go from my mail route for gross negligence.
Oh, come on! You're not gross.
I really need this, please. It was my childhood dream to bounce back after getting fired.
Okay, well, what are your qualifications?
So I like fucking lizards. Not like fucking lizards, but like fucking lizards. Also, I'm pretty skilled to give you back this book.
You are so good at this.
2015 was the dawn of the dead for music peripheral games. Activision put a stop to all things Guitar Hero in early 2011 after declining sales, and Rock Band followed suit shortly after. The market was simply oversaturated with music games that cost over $100 that are the reasons landfills are so in right now. The Earth wasn't meant to house these things. There's only so many plastic music peripheral games you can release in a year. 11, it's only 11. These games were all fundamentally copies of each other, just with different song lists, but nearly all of them would be a bitch to swallow. Customers were overwhelmed by the amount on store shelves and eventually lost interest in nabbing every single one that came out. People bought Guitar Hero 3, then got the 4th one after that, but asking them to get 6 that year was too much. So, the 2 series and the genre as a whole, capital punishment it is. That was until 2015, when Activision and Harmonix both decided it was time. The revivals of Guitar Hero and Rock Band were strange considering I think everybody missed these games to some extent, but nobody wanted to invest in them again. They take up too much space, they're far more expensive than regular games, and while Guitar Hero Live is definitely more of a reboot with a newly designed controller, live action backgrounds, and being a far worse game than the originals, Rock Band 4 picked up right where Rock Band 3 left off, which means, yes, it's in the same timeline as LEGO Rock Band. Rock Band 4 was pretty much just more Rock Band again. It's hard to deny this is what fans wanted, but the series was a little too dead to make a full-blown recovery. By 2015, purchasing large plastic accessories wasn't cool anymore.
What?
While the original sets for both of these series hold their value online, nobody dares to want Guitar Hero Live. Rock Band 4 fared quite a bit better with it being just a flat-out new Rock Band. It may not have have lit sales charts on fire, but it's been getting updates and new DLC for years. It's like feeding a grave. These revivals showcase that not everything works as well as it did back in the day, regardless if barely anything's changed or anti-barely. But then we have a series like Donkey Kong Country's come back with Donkey Kong Country Returns. The whole continent? Donkey Kong Country was a reboot in of itself, as it took Donkey Kong from the arcades and made something far more substantial out of it.
Well, that's a good place to end off for now.
The beginning of chapter 2?
Yeah, we might as well do inventory. It has been 8 minutes.
Alright, we got 14 billion ghosts and a bunch of spider bites.
Okay, and how much did we make?
0.
That's 0 more than yesterday! We have a customer!
Ghost, huh? Are they chipped?
No, Oh, they're gone!
You gotta chip the ghost! I should know. My brother's really dead.
You know, he could be a good addition to the team. He seems to know what the word ghost means.
You like hearing words?
After the trilogy on Super Nintendo and One Night Stand on Nintendo 64, the Donkey Kong series got weird. Only just then. From the early to late 2000s, Donkey Kong only received oddball spin-offs like the DK series, King of Swing and Jungle Climber. Anybody else think this game doesn't exist? Why can't more people be like DK Jungle Climber, non-existent, we have an overpopulation problem? They decided to make some Donkey Kong games that work with the DK Bongos peripheral, Donkey Konga 1 through 3. Yep, it was officially on a spree. Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, which was definitely more of a traditional DK game. No, it depends on your definition of traditional. Yeah, we do this all the time. Donkey Kong Barrel Blast? That's fucked up. A lot of companies do this, where there's no big official entry for the longest time, so they decide to make low-quality spin-offs instead. Like, not only do we hate this franchise, we hate you too. On top of being a series of nothing but spin-offs for a decade, Donkey Kong had a fair amount of canceled titles during this time, which mostly can be attributed to the original Donkey Kong Country developers Rare being bought out by Microsoft, meaning a decent amount of their Donkey Kong games, well, they had to be scrapped or reworked. So for a while, I think Nintendo just didn't really know what to do with DK. To be fair, I don't think most people knew either.
Use words.
This all changed with the Donkey Kong Country series revival, now being developed by Retro Studios. Their founder made the Guy game. Country Returns was a phenomenal resurrection, as its design felt incredibly fresh and new while staying true to the original DKC formula. And I think that's something Retro excelled at, as they did the exact same thing with Metroid, a series that goes in and out of cardiac arrest. Twice already, I've been critical on whether or not the series can conceive, to which it responds, "I'm fertile, bitch." I personally believe Metroid's absences throughout history has less to do with sales and more to do with if Nintendo felt like it that morning. Don't get me wrong, sales definitely play a part. Metroid's never been a huge seller, but you don't put 2 chibi robo games into production during Metroid's hiatus and blame low sales for why there isn't a new game. You funded this? A series may go dormant because of a lack of drive to make a new game. Like Nintendo keeps saying they won't make a new F-Zero unless they have a good idea to back it up. That good idea is just a new F-Zero. Out of the thousands of employees at Nintendo, I think every single one is repulsed by the idea of making a new game.
That's what you call a corpse?
My dead brother's corpse was awesome. That's too far.
Well, it's a learning experience. What else are we gonna do at the cemetery? Well, there's a Del Taco.
That sounds amazing.
Come on, we cannot support a competing business. We sell dead people. Yep.
As a resident carcass expert, I say we mimic the Del Taco strategy.
I already have the papers written out. No, he has a point. Everybody goes to Del Taco till f***ing die.
What we need is a marketing guy to point us in the right direction. And we need better ads.
So, Terry Lessler, we know you've run your own pumpkin orchard. How well can you market? You want this?
Yeah!
You're hired.
The long absence of a series can be a detriment towards sales of a revival, but it can also be a huge plus. Half the time, a revival's entire existence is plagued by, finally, it's a brand new Super Monkey Ball game. Did they forget to turn on spell check? It's the first 2D Metroid in 19 years. Is that something to brag about? To be fair, I don't think games like Streets of Rage 4 would have had the same impact if they released during the series' original run. Time allowed for people to truly understand how much they missed this series, because without it, I don't think a new Streets of Rage was at the top of anybody's bets for the year. I lost so much money in 2018, but when it released, this felt like such a necessary game. They knocked it out of the park. It's so fluid, so beautiful, so much fun. And selling over 2.5 million units, I think it just goes to show how well a faithful revival crafted out of love for the franchise can do. In contrast, what about franchises that haven't had a game in a while, so the companies say, buy this new game, and you might see them again? This isn't a revival, it's a hostage situation. Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD. Who wanted this? Oh, of course. This was the first console Monkey Ball in years, and it just wasn't the best game in the series. Far from it. It was where the game started to truly go downhill. So Sega decided to remaster that one. Great! Remakes and remasters can be fantastic solutions to bring back dead series. It pleases fans who just want to see their favorite thing with a new logo attached, and it helps companies figure out if it's worth pumping money into a wholly new game, just like it going from Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy to Crash Bandicoot 4. But it still feels kinda grimy to almost blackmail fans into buying a game they don't want just to get games they do want. At least with Contra, they gave us both options: the Contra Anniversary Collection or Contra Rogue Corps. I like that they advertised this collection right after whatever the f this is got announced. Marketing. Please, God, don't be pissed.
So after all that, sketched out a marketing plan?
I'm a resident corpse R&D.
And I have seniority.
Alright, so after hiring 3 employees and making no sales, our profit is... I need to hire an accountant.
Hey, look alive, first customer.
Ooh, ghost store, eh? It's about time somebody gave Del Taco a run for their money. What are you doing at the cemetery? Bro, I've been getting so goddamn religious lately. Oh, what religion? The real one. Target? I've been getting really invested in the culture of my religion lately, but the word culture kind of rhymes with vulture, so I don't really like it. I've just been calling it a cult.
Well, if you decide to buy a ghost today, 100% of our customers today we're involved in a cult.
See, I'm just a small cub in a big pond. One day I might be able to learn my cult's resurrection techniques, but for now the whole concept is foreign to me. Like, I don't even know how to begin to resurrect a being.
You ever wait for a series to come back and it's just... A continuation of Half-Life 2 was one of the biggest ongoing jokes in gaming. Like, it needed to happen. It just needed to. Here's a VR prequel 13 years later. Thanks, Sean! Disregarding the high critical praise of Alex, it's just bizarre and pretty deflating to wait over a decade to see what happens next, when what you get is a dirty prequel. Like, damn it! I didn't want to learn more about the Half-Life universe, I wanted to learn more! And you want to talk about less than ideal reveal situations. What about telling the fans to do it themselves? Many revivals occurred via crowdfunding websites, as there's a reason these series were dead to begin with. Shenmue 3 released 18 years after its predecessor. How did this series not have menopause? Shenmue wasn't revived because companies saw potential in sales figures. It's one of those franchises that everybody said, damn, we need another Shenmue, when 95% of the people saying that never played Shenmue and never wanted to play Shenmue. It was just something they heard that fans wanted and it became the big gaming thing to request. Like, we need a new Star Fox. Do we? We all just keep looking at new things to request, even if it's something we don't care about. How many people screaming at Nintendo for a new F-Zero actually want one? Many don't know what they really want because people will talk and talk and talk about needing a brand new Crash Bandicoot game. Like, I need companionship. Crash 4 was interesting as it shows just how far using a number can take you. These people must really mean business if they're willing to flunk math. So you have the first 3 games on PlayStation, then Crash 4 on PlayStation 2, The Wrath of Cortex. It wasn't numbered Crash 4 here, though it was in Japan. Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, disregards all games following the third on PlayStation. It's like the Halloween movies. You have the first one, then a sequel to it, then a third that has absolutely no connections, the fourth is a sequel to the second, then the seventh disregards everything after the second one with a sequel to it, then the ninth one is a reboot with its own sequel, followed up by the 11th one, which is a sequel to the first movie, disregarding even the second one, which got its own sequels. It's just like Crash Bandicoot. Have you ever heard that? A game that called itself the 4th entry to later on have another game consider itself to be the 4th entry? Who the hell cares? Double Dragon 4. What happened here? So you have Double Dragon 1 through 3 on NES and in arcades, and Super Double Dragon on Super Nintendo, then Double Dragon 5 on Super Nintendo. It's obvious Super Double Dragon is Double Dragon 4. It's a beat 'em up like the first 3. 5 was a fighting game, so run! But this was the 4th game, even if it wasn't named it. After 2003, Double Dragon was fairly dormant until Double Dragon Neon in 2012, which was more or less a reboot by Way Forward. I remember fans enjoying it and IGN giving it a 3. This is exactly what was expected from a Double Dragon game, but it's nothing like Uncharted. 5 years later, Double Dragon 4 was released. How? We were up to 5, so you go back one? To be fair, Double Dragon 4 seems to be a revival of the trilogy released on NES, even though the games originated in the arcade. I'm sure this style of Double Dragon is what most remember. does not explain Double Dragon 2 releasing in 2013 and having nothing to do with Double Dragon 2. Even the subtitles are different. Man, I'm having a really Double Dragon 2 and 4 kind of day, which is to say...
Oh, that's f***ing blood!
Okay, so I guess this is a reboot, this is a remake, and this is a revival of a series that was already in remission. Obviously, I don't plead the fifth. It's always strange to see a series do a reboot, instilling a completely new continuity, to just end up going back to the original series. Prince of Persia got a reboot, then another reboot to just end up going back to the first reboot, the Sands of Time series. Strange they decided to revive this series only 2 years after the reboot, 5 years after the last Sands of Time game. Not so strange this coincided with a film adaptation of the Sands of Time. Can this really be considered a revival? I mean, it was 2 years since the last game, and only 5 years since the last game in the series that was revived. Give me one chance to raise the dead, I'm bringing back Garfield. I missed the comic I read this morning. Devil May Cry had a similar fate, receiving a reboot in 2013 titled DMC Devil May Cry, only to get a revival later on, a true 5th entry, Devil May Cry 5, in 2019, 11 years after the 4th. The return of the original series definitely showed that there is such a thing as too consumer friendly, that stripping a series down just to make a reboot for wide appeal can be detrimental. I don't know anybody who refused to play any of the other Devil May Crys, but when DMC came out, bam, finally, a black-haired protagonist. 5 ended up being the most successful game in the series, which shows that sometimes it's good to give the fans what they want. Sometimes, in name only. Sonic the Hedgehog 4 was set to be this grand revival of classic Sonic. I mean, come on, it's in the title. Well, when you put it like that. This was a complete crock. Literally just a budget Sonic game made for mobile, repositioned as a home console, returned to form. Just what the hell were you resurrecting exactly? The Antichrist? This plays nothing like classic Sonic and the Genesis, but various outlets considered fans who didn't like the new physics and design of the game to be typical Sonic fans, not actually knowing what they want. They'll complain about anything. But in reality, Sonic 4 was a two-faced backstabbing revival. Sega acted like this is what everybody wanted, right? And those who couldn't care less went, yes! It's like the people who kept asking for Star Fox, like, look where that got us. Again, I feel like a lot of people in gaming online just know about highly requested titles and chime in to request sequels themselves, even if they truly don't care.
So you?
I like to request games that fans want because I truly want to see people get the games they've wanted for ages. Do I really care if there will never be another Chrono game? No, look at me. But I think gaming as a whole would be better with it. But I need to learn to keep my mouth shut if I'm not actually going to buy the damn game.
Oh, so that tells me something needs to be roughly 1 year dead for it to be resurrected? Judging by the Prince of Persia and the Forgotten Sands.
Well, you ready to seal the deal?
Yes! 1 ghost, please.
Wait, he could be a vital member of our team.
He's already in a cult.
But if he could raise the dead, those ghosts would bring glowing testimonials of our work.
We've had no complaints so far.
But it can't hurt! Welcome aboard!
I never even applied!
Though Sonic the Hedgehog 4 was created just to follow the success of Mega Man 9, an actual revival of classic Mega Man, in which during that era, the Mega Man series devolved into nothing but not Mega Man. It's really strange that they basically abandoned the classic Mega Man series and opted for 14 Mega Man Battle Network games during the 2000s. Oh, well then these must be more approachable and popular than regular Mega Man. Huh? Well, Capcom decided to make a 9th classic Mega Man and brought it back down to the visuals from the 6th NES entries. At the time in 2008, this was awesome, and it's still really cool, though it feels a bit strange looking back. You go from this to this. What an upgrade. And that's all fine and good, but they did it again! It's just a strange feeling that they were devaluing what Mega Man was and acting like all Mega Man is 8-bit, which greatly limited how the franchise was perceived. Mega Man 9 and 10 are fantastic, but after that, when the series took another hiatus and came back with Mega Man 11, I think it was for the best that game used a much more modern aesthetic.
Alright, Rex, do your thing.
Oh, okay, so I think I can only resurrect corpses that are about 1 year old. It's my one flaw.
Can we pick who to resurrect? My dead brother's over here. He's pretty cool.
No, okay. At my skill level, they have to be random. And I can really only do resurrections that are already halfway underway. Ah!
This was a bad idea. Do not tell my dead brother this. I do not like dead people.
You really think you can shoot a ghost? Ah! You fool. That was just a ghost wound.
Oh, yeah, I forgot I should probably go more of a dead brother or something.
He smells so bad! There's gotta be some info in here.
Usually you'll see companies plan ahead of a full-on revival with new merch and other forms of media. Like, you're willing to fund this and not a new game? They were gonna make a Klonoa movie. When was the last game? I'm sure it'll do fine. Many projects like this are far easier to put together than a whole-ass game, so a Banjo-Kazooie figure, why not? Might as well make some money off of this thing. See, Nintendo, I bought the Captain Falcon amiibo. That shows you that there are people who would buy a new F-Zero. You noticed, right? Many times, revivals resurrect the last damn thing anybody wanted. Instead of an actual game, they do something else. Emphasis on thing. They just resurrected Bubsy because, that's right, laugh, it'll be even funnier if you buy it. I love that Psychonauts 2 was announced via crowdfunding and they were chipping away at it just for the VR side game to release before it. I mean, that kind of took a little steam away from Psychonauts 2 being the grand return, but it's a bit much to complain. I mean, I just wanted one new Psychonauts experience, and instead you gave me two?
Resurrect something else, and it might help us! I can't go again 5 minutes after a mission.
Go to his cult practice tonight. Dinner's in 30 minutes. Learn his ways, and then we'll have two people who don't know what the f they're doing.
Well, I mean, this kind of stuff always happens at night. We wouldn't be at this mess if it wasn't for that damn moon. So it turns out we can't outlaw the moon.
That's it. I'm calling 911.
No. Calling 911 is for pussies. Well, what's his biggest fear? Maybe we could try to scare him off.
He's a corrupt police officer who tried to kill us. His version of hell is a room full of people doing the right thing.
Tap out! Tap out!
At the very least, we had to validate why we did this in the first place.
Yeah, you're right. Sir, how have our services been for you?
He's smelling!
Or we can just chalk this up as a fluke. I think I've got enough left in me to go for another one. That was it.
There's gotta be something in here!
Companies won't resurrect something without financial gain. It just won't happen. And when a series is dead for so long, it's just not certain. But all it takes is one game to stroke the flames, like Street Fighter 4, resurrecting the fighting game genre in the late 2000s after it was just fucking weird in the mids. That forced Mortal Kombat to get its shit together and brought fighting games to a whole new level. Sometimes you're resurrecting more than just a game. You're resurrecting a whole genre or concept, and that can lead to financial stability across all gaming.
Financial stability and a concept. That's it!
You guys are still milking that dead person trend? As your former head of R&D, I'll give you my research, but never my empathy.
Rex, is your cult real?
Yeah.
That'll do it!
My God, my eyelids work.
It's pretty stunning. I've only worked with someone who paid off their debts and bought a house unconsciously twice before.
Wait, what?
It's all over the news. 3 corpses were resurrected last night and they're still out there. Really impressive. Keep up the good work.
Well, I resurrected my financial stability, a dangerous serial killer, and some other person while failing to sell any ghosts. That's a net loss. Am I still my cell phoning a house? Well, let's call it New Locationer McGee. It's even more new locationer than the last one. But hey, if gaming revivals have taught me anything, it's that the end is never really the end. I'll be back to financial ruin in no time. Should have put more of a budget into that whole cemetery thing then. In the meantime, I can get used to this. I've wanted more space ever since I bought my 3rd copy. Yeah, why would I ask for a new Star Fox game? I have 10 of them right here.
It ain't Easter.
Oh, that's what the word October 31st meant?
Wow. Some bitch you turned out to be.
Really?
Yeah, the house down the street was only giving out lectures. But you're different, giving out king-size candy bars and all?
Oh, you're just trick-or-treating? I thought this was a robbery on Halloween.
Nah, if this was a robbery, you'd be pointing a gun at me.
Hey y'all, Scott here. It isn't Easter, it's actually not Christmas. Halloween is here, and for Trick or Treat, I'm giving away 3DSs filled with Nintendo eShop games downloaded onto them because the store was out of Skittles. And I'm just doing society a favor. First off, low calorie. Like, compare the nutritional facts of Snickers to Senran Kagura and tell me what you'd rather give to our youth. But I'm mainly doing this to spread awareness of the eShop killer. An unknown entity responsible for the slow death of 2 Nintendo eShops. They're still out there. All I can do is show as many people as I can what's being lost while spreading the word. I've been tracking their patterns, analyzing their calling cards, but I still can't find the culprit. The only thing I haven't done yet is waste my time. While I wait for more trick-or-treaters, let's take a look back at the entire life of the Nintendo eShop on both the Wii U and 3DS and analyze them to find out as much about the eShop killer as possible. But with it being Halloween, hopefully nothing scary happens. The Nintendo eShop, a digital storefront available on Nintendo systems offering downloadable software, and I'll never trust somebody who looks like this ever again. The service was introduced on the Nintendo 3DS in June of 2011, was made available on the Wii U at the launch of that console in November of 2012, and debuted on the Nintendo Switch at its launch in March of 2017, but these are all separate entities. The 3DS eShop is the 3DS eShop. The Wii U eShop's the Wii U eShop. That means even with the Nintendo Switch eShop succeeding them, there is so much unique digital content exclusive to the Nintendo 3DS and the Wii U of doom. In February of 2022, Nintendo announced the death of the Nintendo eShop on both systems, making it impossible to purchase digital games for them ever again. Oh, I pissed myself this morning, I'm good. Pretty wild Nintendo decided to terminate these eShops after the whole fiasco with the Wii Shop channel closure. After the 7th US state was bombed, I thought they would have had a change of heart. Well, my neighborhood did put up a sign. But who's to say that won't eventually happen? I have to prepare for the worst case scenario. I'll use the Nintendo eShop on Halloween just in case I use the Nintendo eShop on Halloween. God damn, put it out of its misery. Either way, I have a Nintendo 3DS and Wii U filled to the brim with downloaded eShop games. So let's take a look at both systems' library of games that don't f***ing exist. It all started with the launch of the Nintendo 3DS. And by that, I mean it didn't. While the 3DS launched here in North America in March of 2011, the Nintendo eShop wasn't active yet. We had to wait until June 6th of that year for a system update enabling the feature. It's okay. The 3DS launched with Rayman 3D. Well, there goes my productivity for the next 2 months. Then finally, bam! The Nintendo eShop launched. But gotta say, pretty pathetic how the system launched without a digital storefront. The Wii did, the Nintendo DSi did. This is like showing up to the party without potato salad. Sure hope nobody notices. Put some f***ing pants on! Regardless, the Nintendo 3DS's eShop was finally open for business, offering nearly all of the software from the Nintendo DSi shop outside of these games here. Damn it! Classic titles from previous systems, a part of the Virtual Console branding, specifically Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, downloadable trailers for upcoming 3DS releases, and of course, original software and applications made specifically for the system. There were pretty much only 2 3DS games on the eShop at launch. One wasn't a 3DS game, the other wasn't a 3DS game. Those being 3D Classics Excitebike and Pokédex 3D. Now, these were both free, at least for a limited time. Excitebike was sort of a piece
offering to 3DS users for patiently not touching their handheld since launch. Pokédex was more so a 3D model viewer for the Pokemon from Pokemon Black and White. This is 100% just a polished tech demo to fiddle around with and nothing more, but I will say, the graphics did impress me back in the day, at least compared to previous Nintendo handhelds. Is that a whole ass circle? 3D Classics Excite Bike was the main course here, and it's the classic NES title remade for stereoscopic 3D. But they went even further than that, putting it in widescreen, revamping the track editor, all while retaining the same look and feel of the 8-bit original. I was so damn pumped to get 3D Classics Excite Bike for free that I finally bought a 3DS for myself in August of 2011 when the offer expired and I had to buy it for $6. And that's when I discovered coping. Honestly, during this time, the classic Game Boy and Game Boy Color titles were keeping me busy. Super Mario Land, Donkey Kong, Link's Awakening DX, these games were seldom re-released, especially in comparison to the junk on NES. Hey, do you want to play Donkey Kong 3 again? For the millionth time. Yes! Even if a good chunk of these Game Boy games didn't hold up the greatest, they were definitely fun to look back on and see how Nintendo's handheld lineage all began. Or there just wasn't anything to do with the system in 2011, because I'm gonna talk about trailers now. Something I remember doing a lot was downloading game trailers off of the eShop. This was cool because you could view them in 3D, getting a better idea as to how the game would look on the 3DS's display. But I always liked keeping these on my system, mainly because a lot of these used working titles and prototype logos, so it's kind of a cool digital keepsake from the build up to launch for these titles. Like when Mario Tennis Open was just called Mario Tennis. God, simpler times. Now the police report's longer. And that was pretty much it for the Nintendo eShop on 3DS at launch. The most exciting thing, honestly, was getting all the DSi Shop content, the Game Boy games, and of course, the presentation. You ever go to a store and feel guilty for not buying anything? I feel like that every time I enter the 3DS eShop. I mean, the music that plays isn't in your face like the Wii or DSi Shop. Rather, it's so soothing and comfy, all while that damn shopping bag has organs. No other storefronts kept me this calm during that situation. I always liked how during the download screen you could twist and turn the icon in 3D, how upgraded the entire visual experience was from Nintendo's previous digital stores. I mean, they have whole ass banners, categories. We're no longer using fake currency, which is definite growth. Sir, I'll give you 7 Wii Cladoodles for that. Nah, now we use real world money and get taxed real world dollars because we're real world citizens now. This was the moment Nintendo fans were finally tried as adults. But that was pretty much it for the eShop at launch, and frankly, almost the entirety of 2011. The only things that ever seemed to pop up here were Game Boy Virtual Console titles. Now, I'm not really one to complain. I think I react in the exact way Nintendo wants their fans to with these games. But it was just odd considering the Nintendo DSi Shop had the exact opposite issue. I thought it was weird how they had no legacy virtual console software on there, just original DSi releases. With the 3DS, it was pretty much nothing but virtual console software. And even then, it was basically just Game Boy. In the entirety of 2011, we only got 2 Game Boy Color games. More entries in the 3D Classics line released throughout the year: Xevious, Urban Champion, Twin Bee, and Kirby's Adventure, with Kid Icarus launching in 2011 as the last 3D Classic Nintendo released. I've already talked about these at length. However, they were a core part of the eShop in those early days. They definitely varied in quality, and the games they picked to convert to 3D, I mean, damn, I was hoping they would do stick on a screen. Could have improved it a bit, cause that's a damn branch! Outside of playing old games, however, the 3DS could do all kinds of other things. Happy Halloween. Applications! In July of 2011, we got Netflix and Nintendo Video. You know, it was kind of assumed Netflix on the 3DS would feature 3D movies. Much like how you'd assume I'm not fucking pissed. Yeah, this was just a low-resolution Netflix viewer. It worked, though I remember it being incredibly slow. But if you wanted significantly less content, but content tailor-made for the 3DS, look no further than Nintendo Video. This was an app that would feature 4 short videos at a time, all viewable in 3D. New ones would replace the old every couple of days or so. They weren't archived, you couldn't save them, you couldn't go back and watch old videos. You'd open up the app, could watch the 4 videos on hand, and the next day you'd check it out. One of those videos or all of them could be gone and replaced by something completely different. The videos could have been animations, comedy skits, music videos, movie trailers, promotions for upcoming games, whatever the Nintendo interns felt that morning. A Happy Feet 2 trailer? It was either that or my friend's dance recital. The fact there were only 4 videos available at a time, I can see how that made it a bit more interesting, but that pretty much meant there was no reason to stay in this app for more than 5 minutes. Hey, I know my flaws. This format couldn't have been sustainable, so the app was discontinued in 2015, with Nintendo opting to just release 3D videos via the Nintendo eShop. Now, many would say they went above and beyond with effort and put a vast majority of the app's previous content on there. I'm not one of those many. Nintendo Zone, another free app from 2011 I downloaded and rarely used ever at all. I was busy. Basically would allow you to go to certain stores and download specific content, like trailers and items in games like Animal Crossing. Never did that. Pretty much only opened this app at home to pass time by thinking, why did I open this app at home? But then there was SwapNote, released for free in December of 2011. This was created as a follow-up to PictoChat from the Nintendo DS. That was focused on sending messages to others in the same room as you. SwapNote took things a step further by allowing you to send messages to others around the world. The amount of customization you can add to your notes makes this a huge step up from PictoChat, along with how much character is infused with the host Nikki guiding us through things. This was a really cute application. For crime! Yeah, because of the online functionality, many SwapNote users would find other SwapNote users to message via online forums. And that's how many users ended up getting horrible messages. So Nintendo's response was to just kill the app entirely, though randomly they updated it in December of 2020, calling it the SwapNote Remastered Update, which didn't do a damn thing. It was basically done just to patch things up behind the scenes to avoid hacking exploits. Why call it SwapNote Remastered? I ask as if I'm brave enough to know. Well, we had apps, Game Boy Color, and 3D Classics games all released via the eShop in 2011. What about exclusively downloadable 3DS video game software? For the whole year? Yeah, if it weren't for all the other fluff, the 3DS eShop would have had an absolutely pitiful launch year. I mean, my God. This is supposed to be the easy and cheap way to release games. Other than 3D Classics and Pokédex 3D, the first original 3DS downloadable game was Let's Golf 3D by Gameloft. Oh, yeah. I've heard of Wiccan Beliefs. Yeah, there's not much to this one. It's a basic as hell golf game, but I mean, I think you'd get your money out of this. Just because it's basic doesn't make it bad. Being developed by Gameloft does. But this is okay. Just nothing special by any means. Speaking of which, Nintendo's first major original eShop release, Freaky Forms. Released later in 2011, this game was focused on making your own creatures and trees. Finally, I can express myself. Yeah, this one was always a bit lighter. You get out of it what you put into it. There's not much to do here other than make a guy and make him walk. This is one of those games I never played back in the day, but I'll see a small group of people reminisce like, God damn. That was the year of Freaky Forms. And it's easy to see why. If you really want to just dick around and make some abominations that you can then control, Freaky Forms will appeal to you. And manipulative parents. The problem is, that's all Freaky Forms really is. It doesn't go further than, look ma, I made this. Oh wow, that's great, sweetie. Please get a job. Cute little toy, but if you didn't play it during the early years of the 3DS as a youngin', it's pretty difficult to get invested in this today. Though Nintendo did release an expanded retail version later on, meaning Freaky Forms is forever physically preserved. Yeah, like these grapes. Now, I didn't pick this game up when it first launched because there was another Nintendo published eShop game released around the same time that garnered all of my attention. Pushmo, one of the best just one of the best things. I mean, this is incredible. One of the first major eShop games from Nintendo, and it's this high quality? Keep in mind, digital games around this time were always presented as far lesser than the big boy retail releases. Anything Nintendo released themselves via WiiWare or DSiWare had a distinct lack of that given a shit flavor. But here comes Pushmo, an ingenious puzzle platformer where you have to pull and push blocks in the correct way in order to get to the top. The concept is so simple, yet has so much depth as the blocks can form pixel art, the ladders get involved, and it's controlled in 3D so you can move them from the sides or the front. There's a whole ass editor where you can make your own puzzles on top of the hundreds included in the game. Like, going from Nintendo's previous offerings on the Nintendo DSi shop where you'd be damn lucky to get a title screen, to this masterfully executed experience. It's jarring, but a very welcome change. It's obvious they were putting more effort into their digital offerings, making them less about being eShop games and more so just games. But hey, what about, dear God, anybody but Nintendo? Well, we have two indie games that launched in the holiday of 2011, Mighty Switch Force and 6 Whole Vs. Mighty Switch Force was developed by WayForward, a studio known for making good games when they do. And Mighty Switch Force is definitely one of them, though it does feel a bit like most of the interest in this game came from it being one of the few original eShop games at the time. The art and music are phenomenal, and the gameplay of toggling a switch back and forth to make certain platforms appear or disappear, it's simple but fun and leads to some creative level designs. But when there's only 16 stages to go through, and originally there was even less before a free update added more, I don't know, it feels a little too light. It's solid, but not substantial enough for you to really go out of your way to play it. This was the perfect I have money left on my gift card game. Now, this was pretty great. It's similarly short, but the mechanic of reversing gravity is a bit more interesting, and that Commodore 64 game aesthetic is really unique as far as retro-flavored indie games go. But that was the first year of Nintendo eShop. Pretty slim pickings, but I'm hopeful. Maybe we'll get something exciting soon, like Bye Bye Box Boy. Longest damn 6 years of my life. 2012 was a far more fleshed out year for the store, with the games Sakura Samurai, Art of the Sword, and Dylan's Rolling Western kicking things off in February. There was always something about Dylan's Rolling Western that just felt lame as hell. Like, oh, you have parents that love you? Well, I have Dylan's Rolling Western. A tower defense game starring an armadillo. It is Halloween. This one is actually pretty clever with its gameplay. I do like how it takes a genre primarily known for a top-down view and turns it into a heavily character-based third-person action game. You run around the area before sunset to gather resources and prepare for enemies to show up. It's solid, albeit it can get monotonous at times. But this was a fine little eShop title, a fun, one and done. They got 3 damn entries. He even appears in Smash Brothers as an assist trophy. Like, what did you do to earn this? I am so sorry. You know, after thinking about it, a lot of the 3DS eShop games are like this. Games with a solid base, but don't go too far with it, and they can end up feeling a bit repetitive, which is sort of my feelings on Sakura Samurai. It has tons of style and personality. The gameplay is about samurai combat, dodging and striking at the right time, but that's kind of it. It's not bad at all. In 2012, this was a must-have on the eShop, but it felt more like a must-have because what else were you playing at the time? Good little game by Nintendo that got really damn high review scores, like Quetzal's Corridors. This is just damn hole in the wall. Move the shape to fit in the hole. What? Like, Jesus, guys. I mean, I like the smaller Nintendo games as much as the guy right next to me. Don't look too deep into that. But why were we acting like these games were saying something profound? Now, Quetzal's Corridors is actually the sequel to Through Space on WiiWare, which we got a similar situation with Fluidity Spin Cycle. Fluidity on WiiWare was all about controlling water. Yep, video games are the best. Fluidity Spin Cycle takes that concept and gives it more character. Meet Eddie. He's a water. You tilt your system back and forth to control where the giant puddle goes, and in some stages, you have to move the entire handheld upside down. Yeah, kinda cool idea, but in practice, who the hell wants to do this? I'd say the best Nintendo published eShop game in 2012 was from the same series as last year's. We got a follow-up to Pushmo in the form of Crashmo, the Mo series. This looks very similar, but plays a whole lot different. Basically, now blocks fall when there's nothing underneath to support them, and just that one change is enough to make me feel like an idiot. This is way harder now. It's still really damn good, but I wouldn't recommend this to somebody if they haven't already played Pushmo. Now, that wasn't it for Nintendo's eShop releases in 2012. Did we really forget Sparkle Snapshots 3D? Not yet. So this was a photo editing app Nintendo put out where you can make your pictures look like a website from the 90s. A lot of this is just something I can already sort of do in the stock 3DS camera app, so like, why would I spend $6 on this? Well, it seems that all the value is spunk-based. I mean, if you really dive in, I'm sure you'd find a photo editor with more in-depth tools, but the furthest I made it was less rock sticker deep. They upgraded the Pokédex 3D application to 3D Pro, containing far more Pokemon, pretty much all of them up to that point. It's a great resource for numbers. You even get a little Pokemon quiz you can take along with AR functionality. This is an awesome free update. Hell, I pay $1 for it. 15 times in a row. Yeah, $15 for this is a lot, especially when you could grab 2 or 3 of the other eShop games I just mentioned for that price. And this isn't even a game, it's a resource on the way to fictional dragons. Like, $14? Maybe. This released in the fall, alongside Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 releasing on the Nintendo DS. Pokemon Black and White already released like the same month the 3DS did. It just felt like Pokemon was avoiding the 3DS at all costs. Yeah. To make up for Black 2 and White 2 only being DS games, they launched Pokemon Dream Radar for $3. You could capture Pokemon with your 3DS camera and transfer them to Black and White 2. Oh man, apology accepted. See, the Pokemon Company is just like me. They're trying to find an excuse to justify this thing. Now, a big Nintendo eShop moment in 2012 was the introduction of full-fledged downloadable retail games, starting with New Super Mario Bros. 2 being offered day and date in stores and on the eShop. Standard practice now, sure, but this was completely new territory for Nintendo at the time. Everybody forgive it up for the 45-year-old man with nothing wrong with him getting out of the chair he's been sitting in for his entire life just because he felt like it. A good handful of indie titles filled up the rest of the year, with Mutant Mudds headlining it. Now this was the 3DS eShop game, one of the first I think of right alongside Pushmo. A 2D platformer where you go between the background and foreground, a concept originating from Virtual Boy Wario Land of all things. Perfectly executed with the 3D display here. The gameplay is so damn simple. You just slowly walk, jump, shoot your weapon, hover in the air for a few seconds. That's pretty much it. But the simplicity isn't a bad thing. It's nice to have a game that knows what it is and takes advantage of that, offering an ultra-refined experience similar to what we got on the NES and SNES, so now with the mentality of modern-day game design. And as a player, man, I just like having some games I can always jump into and play without having to remember the controls or objectives. Mutant Mudds was always a safe bet for me to pick up and play if I didn't know what I wanted out of life, and it always did the job. But its simplicity does make it harder to stand out when it's not seen as an early 3DS eShop game. This got more attention because of that. If it launched right now for Xbox, nobody would be talking about it. But see, that's the beauty of early titles in a system's life. They stand out more, and being an early adopter can inspire you to try some games you may not otherwise. Be honest. Would you? Birdmania 3D. This was always from my personal digital 3DS game collection, and the only reason it was ever notable was its insanely cheap price. Only $2. At the time, that was about the cheapest you could get on 3DS without going flat out free, and damn it, that is the best way to describe Birdmania. Outside of Birdmania. I mean, it's a high score based game that you'd find everywhere on the iPhone back in the day. The core of a fine game is there. It works and is fun enough for what it is. But this isn't the type of game that's meant to be reviewed. It's a type of game that's meant to be consumed and forgotten about after a 10-minute play session, and for $2, I mean, it depends what you really value. Junk food or a healthy organic feast coated in pesticide. Colors 3D was another one I owned, which I got a fair amount of mileage out of. It was basically just a simple paint program, though you could use different layers to create 3D art. Get those sensors ready.
It's the word f***, I swear!
Crimson Shroud was definitely one of the meteor offerings, created by Level 5. It's a tabletop RPG, and that's the nicest thing I can say about it. The Denpa Men, developed by Genius, who develops a lot of the Pokemon spin-offs. They made 3 of them. Bomb Monkey, Art of Balance Touch, Zen Pinball 3D, Order Up, Mad Dog McCree. It's a boy? Yeah, cool. Definitely a step up from the eShop's first year, but that didn't stop 2012 from being the eShop's first year too. When the Wii U released in November of 2012, its very own Nintendo eShop came right alongside it. No waiting this time, everything was here and accounted for. Most retail games were offered as digital downloads, a handful of eShop-only releases, though no virtual console titles yet. Those would come within the next few months. His layout was definitely way smoother and less restrictive than the 3DS eShop. You could use the left or right sticks to move the page up or down, the D-pad to go panel by panel, or the touchscreen to go damn near anywhere. If we were timing this, let's just say you wouldn't be talking shit. Eventually, they added this little slot machine game to play before the eShop fully loaded, featuring all the icons from the games you own. I love the loading screen game, and with how damn slow the Wii U is at times, this went from cute addition to borderline necessary. It also helps the Wii U eShop stand out as a store. And now we wait for the competition's response. Only a few games exclusive to the Wii U eShop at launch. Most notably, we got Little Inferno. It's made by the same guys who whipped up World of Goo back on WiiWare, which was often considered the best game on the Wii Shop channel. That title showcased how this development team exceeded at physics-based puzzle games. Though Little Inferno is more so a physics-based puzzle toy. It's just about lighting different objects on fire and combining multiple objects to burn at once that match these little cues, and I love it. This is the perfect game for the Wii U, as you're using the touchscreen to control the fire and place items while everybody on the TV can see what you're doing. I find these types of experiences are what the Wii U does best, next to Ringworm. Nano Assault Neo was a pretty standard shoot 'em up. Mighty Switch Force Hyperdrive Edition was just Mighty Switch Force in HD with hand-drawn sprites, which bleeds Chasing Aurora and Trine 2, with this being one of the most AAA indie releases at the time. And you know what? That was a perfectly serviceable selection of eShop games. The Wii U's launch had stuff to play, in the same way your dad says, "What do you mean there's nothing to do? The gutters need cleaned." But this was a fine enough start to the second variation of the Nintendo eShop, and moving into 2013, we were about to experience our first full year of both 3DS and Wii U digital stores simultaneously. And absolutely nothing's gonna stop us from doing so.
Hey everybody, Geriatrics here, therapist at the Think Barrel. Mental health's been on an upswing lately, and therapy profits are in the gutter. So I thought I'd do my part and get a second job telling the news again. So if this report traumatizes you, thanks bud, means a lot. If you start seeing things, you know who to call. We return to this hour's update on Throat Watch. Reports of dangerous substances such as lithium-ion batteries being hidden in Halloween candy have been lowered to a concerning 1. Resident Rex Mose can be seen here eating shit. Wow, what I would give to be not him. And unlike somebody who doesn't have the exclusive interview with the brave cameraman who captured the whole thing, I do.
Yeah, it was crazy. First thing I did, contact the news station, show them the tape.
Rex Mose is now in critical condition. Detectives found this half-eaten battery on the scene, leading them to the culprit. Battery acid poisoning. Lock your doors at night.
Should really stop labeling my stuff like that.
Please!
911! Somebody just broke in! Can we have prison outside today?
Sorry, friend, no can do. Maybe this will cheer you up. Can't have a criminal without a gun.
Wait, do I know you?
Well, there's a good chance he gutted someone. I was right there behind you with handcuffs.
No, that hasn't happened yet. Do you have a brother?
Nah, even better. Cousins. Got one that works at Target, one that's dead. I work at the police station. I'm a police employee. Pleasure doing business with you.
Well, I'm a convicted felon now. Might as well act like one. Yeah, while both platforms had applications called Nintendo eShop, while on the Wii U eShop you could look up games on the 3DS eShop and vice versa, you couldn't buy them. These were two separate entities, which, like, goddamn, if they're two different stores, call them two different things. Which this just got messy. Virtual Console for Wii U was introduced in early 2013. NES games were being released there and the 3DS eShop during the same time, but they'd release the same games for both, months, sometimes even years apart from each other, and they'd be completely separate. So Yoshi for NES launched on 3DS eShop on February 21st, 2013. On Wii U, Yoshi for NES launched on June 12th, 2013. Same exact game that you'd have to pay for all over again, in full, just to play on Wii U. Most of the same NES games appeared on both systems, but some only released on Wii U, and others only released on 3DS. Why? Cancer exists and you're asking that? The Wii U and 3DS eShops felt significantly behind on the times. Sony had their cross-buy initiative. You buy a PlayStation 1 classic game on PlayStation 3, you got it free of charge on PlayStation Vita. Now, they did that with some indie games and even full retail releases. And they were able to do this due to the use of their PlayStation account system. One account you use across all your PlayStation devices. And in 2013, to buy a game on 3DS and then going to your Wii U only to hear it say, "Who the f*** are you?" It's just depressing. I feel like Nintendo wanted to have these systems speak to each other far more than they did. I mean, I can view 3DS software available on the Wii U eShop, and why can I do that? But eventually, Nintendo finally combined the two eShops' wallets. So pretty much, if you add 50 bones to your Wii U eShop balance, that money would also appear on your 3DS eShop. That's all it took for you? Well, when it came to actual software on the Wii U eShop in 2013, Nintendo's first major release was Google Maps. Wii Street U was a free app using Google Maps data where you could look up locations on your Wii U gamepad. Keep in mind, in 2013, this was one of only 3 games that released for the Wii U in February. It's just the Street View feature from Google Maps, but now with the option of moving around with the gamepad's gyroscope. For some reason, Nintendo thought this was immersive, so much so they released a similar application a few months later, Wii U Panorama View. Instead of looking up locations for free on Google Maps, this was a series of videos you had to shell out $2 a pop for. This was one of 3 games released in April. Why Nintendo was pushing the Wii U to do this kind of thing, I have no idea. It's not that it did a bad job at this, it was smooth and well produced, it's just you're holding a giant-ass serving tray with a comparatively small screen with a low resolution.
Oh, Paris.
The amount of worthless applications Nintendo put out on Wii U in 2013 instead of actual video games is shocking. We got Animal Crossing Plaza, a companion app to a damn 3DS game. It was integrated with the Miiverse social media platform of the Wii U and allowed you to make posts about specific animals in the game. If any post began with,
"Listen, I'm just gonna say it,"
run. At least this was a free app, but they took it down a year and a half later, and the entire purpose of it was nothing but questionable. So this is for Animal Crossing New Leaf players to interact with each other on a console that can't play Animal Crossing New Leaf.
Nintendo, just become a serial killer. You have the thought process of one.
We got Art Academy Sketchpad for like, what, $4? It wasn't like previous Art Academy games on the DS and 3DS. There was no Academy. This is just a drawing application. Pretty much Nintendo pitched it as a way to share full-color drawings on their Miiverse platform, draw something in the game, share it via the screenshot functionality, which, hey, the usefulness of this app is very similar to something like Colors 3D. The problem is, this was just a demo for an actual Art Academy game that later came to Wii U. Like, Jesus Christ, did Nintendo release an actual video game on the Wii U eShop in 2013?
No.
Pokemon Rumble U, $18.
Why not 19?
This is genuinely one of the worst games Nintendo's ever released, which, hey, one of the Pokemon Rumble games had to make the list. Originally a WiiWare game where you progress through simple levels battling other Pokemon with one of 2 very basic attacks, Pokemon Rumble U brings things to the next level by charging $18. There are no levels, just battle arenas. You just go into a basic ring and fight a bunch of Pokemon. That's the game. This is absolutely miserable. Why it's so expensive, why it exists to begin with is beyond me. The only reasons I can think of would be to rush something Pokemon related out on Wii U, and not only was Pokemon Rumble in its normal state the easiest solution, Pokemon Rumble in a worse state was preferable. Or it was to bring these figurines to market, NFC toys you could scan on the Wii U gamepad to play with in-game. These things weren't really pushed though, so it might have just been a test thing, but I don't know. Pokemon Rumble U sticks with the Pokemon Rumble U tradition and is a piece of shit. Man, I don't know. Nintendo's Wii U eShop output has been pretty horrendous, but that all changed with the introduction of Wii Sports Club. Now it's just bad. Wii Sports Club was an HD remake of the original Wii Sports because at this point, Nintendo ran out of options. It's always felt a little more desperate than necessary to me. Like, okay, why remake Wii Sports? What did they improve? Well, HD visuals for one, the art design still uses the same incredibly basic Wii Sports style, so thank God. Oh man, Pong's in HD now. Wii Motion Plus is required for the games, which I'm just so used to how these games controlled without better motion control. Now that they have them, it's creepy. Golf and baseball both use the gamepad in unique ways. Golf, you set it on the floor and can see the ball.
And the Wii U failed fucking why?
Baseball's a bit more involved, using it as the pitcher and fielders. I'd say it's the only game that's really been enhanced by the gamepad use. The motion control upgrades across the board, while on paper they sound great, in practice, I always found them to make the sports more complicated and cumbersome at times. I mean, boxing is so much slower now. But hey, online multiplayer, now this was a big deal. You can finally play all the original games from Wii Sports online, and I barely ever did this. Why? Well, I'm never gonna say no to having the option. I feel like these games weren't optimized enough to feel natural with online play. I mean, compare bowling here to Nintendo Switch Sports. That has everybody bowl all at once, and overtime eliminates players that don't meet the score threshold. While in Wii Sports Club, it's pretty much just regular bowling. You have to watch the other players do everything, and when I say everything, that includes nothing. But that brings us to the way they delivered this content. Wii Sports Club was a free download in which after downloading, you could play all the sports as much as you'd like for 24 hours. Afterwards, you'd have to buy each sport outright, costing $10 a piece. Of course, that meant you could opt to not purchase some sports and only pick up the ones you want. But if you want a mere taste for a day, you could pay $2 for 24 hours access of all sports. But also keep in mind that Wii Sports Club only launched with tennis and bowling in November of 2013. In December, we got golf, and in June,
June of 2014, we got Baseball Unboxing and a full retail release in July for $40 containing everything.
Yeah, explain that to Dad.
How do you take one of the simplest, easy to understand games of all time and give it the strangest pricing structure you can think of? And most people got Wii Sports for free with their Wii, so why would they want to go from that to then buying each game individually? And who the hell would get the 24-hour day pass? I get they were trying to give it a sports country club feel. I mean, it's in the damn title, but at what cost? Too much. $40 overall for a remake of a game most got for free that you could already play on the console was remade on with minimal changes or additions outside of online multiplayer, which sounds amazing, but ended up being not nearly as fun as I dreamed when playing Wii Sports on its heyday.
I'll still buy it, but still!
Thankfully, Nintendo ended 2013 with a bang on the Wii U eShop. 2 games released right around the holidays. First up, NES Remix. Announced and released on the same day, this was an amazing little surprise that recontextualized classic NES games as bite-sized challenges. Unfortunately, some of these challenges would just be tutorials. Kick the turtles.
Oh no, my ass! I've worked it off!
But it's addictive to go through as many challenges as you can and try to get the best rank possible, Rainbow Stars. Though I think what NES Remix does best is actually make some of these games fun in a modern day setting. There's no human reason to play NES Baseball anymore, but in the form of a challenge mode where you still get to play the game, but in a more abridged fashion, almost like playable highlights, it all makes sense. It makes these games as fun as they were back when they released. Now, of course, just browsing around the menus, it's clear Nintendo positioned NES Remix as a bit of an advertising tool, making sure the players know they can buy the full games on the Nintendo eShop. But this element is definitely underplayed and never overtakes the experience. This genuinely feels like an ingenious method of making outdated NES titles cool again. But of course, the star of the show is the remix challenges, though I'd say these are pretty hit or miss. Sometimes these are as cool as playing Donkey Kong as Link, but because you're Link from the original Legend of Zelda, you can't jump. So not only is it wild to play the game as a different character, but they keep an attribute of that character to increase the challenge. But other times, the remixes are basically just adding a filter to the game. When they hit, they really hit, but I find a lot of them to have too minor of tweaks to be really that cool. But when it comes down to it, NES Remix was exactly what the eShop needed. Something familiar yet incredibly fresh and fun. And for only 15 bones, I'd say this was the one eShop game that belonged on everybody's Wii U. But on New Year's Eve, that number increased by 0. Dr. Luigi, a new entry in the Dr. Mario puzzle series featuring Luigi because, well, we weren't feeling bad enough for Nintendo. So Dr. Luigi was created in commemoration of the Year of Luigi, Nintendo's worst financial year. A year-long celebration of Luigi's 30th anniversary. Yeah, why not let him diagnose me? Of course, on the last day of 2013, you kind of actively date your game by having Dr. Luigi stand on a giant Year of Luigi podium, but it doesn't really matter because all Dr. Luigi is Dr. Mario on the Wii U. You could have a giant banner at the top that says, "Congratulations on becoming a state, Wyoming," and it wouldn't matter because it's just core Dr. Mario gameplay. You pop in, play a quick game, pop out. So I don't think dating this game with the Year of Luigi makes it unplayable. The fact it's the same damn game from WiiWare does. Dr. Mario Online RX was a fantastic little WiiWare game for $10. Then 5 years later, Dr. Luigi releases for $5 more, introduces a mode with L-shaped pills, and the color green. Yeah, I gotta be honest, this is a pretty pitiful follow-up to all the Dr. Marios before. This is literally just Online RX, but in HD, with this new mode. Operation L. Instead of matching up a pill with 2 colors to the viruses in the bottle, and now you have to deal with an L-shaped pill. God damn, who gives a shit? This doesn't change the game. If anything, it just makes it easier because you have more pills, you have more chances to clear all the viruses. A lot of the music is reused from Online RX, the rest of the modes are. This just always felt like a fairly passionless project. I mean, it's cool that the viruses here have new designs and this Virus Buster mode returning from the WiiWare game plays differently, focusing on using the touchscreen of the gamepad, but it's not enough. This just feels like it was put together with not much thought at all. It's a completely competent modern Dr. Mario experience, but that's the only reason why I ever booted it up, because I just felt like playing Dr. Mario. I'm not perfect. And that was Nintendo's Wii U eShop output in 2013. Does anybody else feel itchy? I'll leave it up to the third parties and indies to pick up the slack. I'd say Tokitori 2 was one of the big headlining indies this year. I mean, a sequel to a late release Game Boy Color game exclusively on Wii U? It's a shame because Tokitori 2 is a great little puzzler with loads of charm, and they also put out the remake of the original game on the eShop that very same year. It's always heartwarming to see developers really get behind certain consoles and create their games exclusively for them. It can help out, as in the case of Tokitori 2, that was one of the only original games that released on the Wii U in April 2013, and even if the game has released on numerous platforms since, I always see it as a Wii U game. But it is so risky to do that, especially for such a niche series like Tokitori. And some games, as much as I associate them with Nintendo and the Wii U as a whole, did release across multiple platforms, which was for the best. Bit Trip presents Runner 2 Future Legend of Rhythm Alien, a great auto-scrolling rhythm platformer succeeding the Bit Trip series on WiiWare, specifically Bit Trip Runner. You know, there's not much to say outside of how addicting this game can be, and it's great to see how Runner 2 breaks free of the Atari 2600 styled graphics of the original Bit Trip series. As while that was unique, especially compared to how other retro-esque games would almost always tackle NES-style 8-bit at the time, it was for sure limiting, and you can only take the series so far with those types of visuals. And while that original series was exclusive to WiiWare for the longest time, Runner 2 launched on PC, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Wii U, which was definitely smart for the developer. Though, this was always a Wii U game to me, much like DuckTales Remastered. DuckTales on NES by Capcom was always seen as this legendary title, one of the greatest on the console, setting the standard for licensed games based on cartoons. But because of that exactly, it was never re-released. Licensed games are just trickier to do that with. But thankfully, we got something even better, as Capcom, Disney, and the developer WayForward came together to fully remake the game. Now with these beautiful hand-drawn sprites, 3D backgrounds, remixed music, and fully voice-acted cutscenes. I love this game. In my opinion, it takes the iconic original and makes it so much better. The controls, the level design, the boss fights, they tweak things to make everything flow a bit better as a modern game, while still respecting the original and maintaining what made it so great. Cloudberry Kingdom was another multi-plat release, this one published by Ubisoft. It's a 2D platformer with procedurally generated stage design, meaning every time you play, the game will auto-generate a new level, meaning you will always have new stages, and they will always be very mediocre. I mean, this is a fine little download title. I had it on the Xbox 360 and thought it was decent enough to waste some time with every now and then. But it was no Mutant Mudds Deluxe, which is Mutant Mudds again, and only Mutant Mudds can claim to be that. This release has a bunch of extra levels and adjusted visuals due to the lack of a 3D display, but other than that, it's Mutant Mudds. It's a good little platformer, but I want something unique to Wii U. And horny. Spin the bottle, Bumpy's Party. Oh they got Bumpy in on this? One of the most unique Wii U games, honestly. A local multiplayer-only joint that barely uses the TV at all. It's all about huddling around the gamepad and using it to do all kinds of stupid things, like play Spin the Bottle Bumpy's Party. It's honestly pretty damn close to something like 1-2 Switch on the Nintendo Switch, where most of the fun comes from interacting with the other people in the room, while the video game portion is more so in the background, encouraging that kind of behavior. I'd say this is a pretty alright party game to have. Without children in the room, how is this rated everyone? Past the Badger! Zen Pinball 2, Castle Storm, Mighty Switch Force 2 launched on Wii U a few months after debuting on 3DS in summer of 2013, this time retaining the pixel art style opposed to the hand-drawn style of Hyperdrive Edition. We got The Cave by Double Fine and Sega, a Dungeons & Dragons Chronicles of Mystara, an old-school arcade game by Capcom brought back to modern platforms, Gianna Sisters' Twisted Dreams. It was apparent there was a decent enough amount of stuff to play on the Wii U eShop throughout 2013. But it was more apparent what wasn't there. Soul Calibur 2 HD, released on Xbox 360 and PS3. This game was infamous for having exclusive characters for each console it released on, with Link from The Legend of Zelda in the GameCube version. I mean, talk about a missed opportunity not putting this out on Wii U and bringing Link back. And we didn't get other games that released on PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Arcade, like Call of War as Gunslinger, Darkstalkers Resurrection, Retro City Rampage, which got a damn WiiWare release, but not on the Wii U eShop. So what did the Wii U eShop get? They should have killed it sooner. The Nintendo 3DS eShop in 2013, by comparison, you know what? I can live with this. Nintendo kicked things off this year with Tokyo Crash Mobs, just like me. So this is the game that's all about being wacky. It's a reskin of the puzzle game Magnetica, which is a reskin of Ballistic, which is a reskin of Puzzle Loop, but this takes place in Tokyo. Well, not saying this didn't, but... Yeah, I've always heard of this game, but never tried it. I assumed it was going to be anything but a Zuma clone. I also assumed melanoma was the sleeping hormone, so. Kersploosh! You throw a rock down a well, and it's still better than Pokemon Rumble. I actually had this one back in the day. It was pretty cheap in a basic high score based game. Try to get the rock down there as fast as possible, hitting the least amount of obstacles. It was fine enough for what it is, but for me, in 2013, it was all about Harmonite. Created by Game Freak, the Pokemon developers, Harmonite is very similar to a game like Runner 2. It's a rhythm game presented in the context of a platformer. You have to jump and attack at the right time to keep the beat. I loved the presentation, the character designs, and the feel of hitting a note was exhilarating. But after replaying this, you know what sticks out? Not the music. For a rhythm game, this title has some extremely forgettable tunes. None of it is bad, but it just feels weird for something like this to not really prioritize the soundtrack. Though there's some Pokemon music in there, which is nice, and overall the game is still quite good. I love to see Game Freak spread their wings and do something non-Pokemon related from time to time. But damn, Harmonite never got a sequel, which is something Dylan's Rolling Western can't say. The Last Ranger. I am genuinely asking, what do you want me to say? The only other Nintendo-published 3DS eShop game of 2013 to discuss, that's right, they were a bit later this year, is Mario and Donkey Kong Minis on the Move. So this is an entry in the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series. Who know that? I guess they changed it to Mario and Donkey Kong to signify how this title plays pretty much completely differently compared to the other entries, but you could also say that about Mario vs. Donkey Kong 1 compared to the games that followed. Regardless, that series became this whole stinking heap of nothing. Just the same puzzle platformer ripoff of Lemmings over and over again. This one here is just a ripoff of Pipe Dream, and I am so happy because of it. Your mini toy starts following the directions of the tiles, and you have to place new ones in a correct order to get them to the end. It's not the most original idea, but damn it, it's executed well, and the production values are great here. I'm really bummed they didn't continue with this idea, and instead decided to go back to hell where they belong. But we'll get to that in due time, because while Nintendo's output here was light in 2013, we got some heavy hitters from the other studios, namely Capcom with Phoenix Wright Dual Destinies. Yeah, unfortunately, this was an eShop exclusive, digital only. It got a physical release in Japan, but nowhere else. It's a shame, because this is a fantastic evolution of the Ace Attorney series. It brings the iconic pixel art into full cel-shaded 3D, and it looks outstanding. Weirdly enough, this was the first game in the series to be rated M, just for a bit more blood on screen than usual. It's like, come on, what's this really necessary? I mean, in the end, being an eShop exclusive is not as difficult to buy if you're too young compared to at the store. Who cares if it's 17 and up? Surely no one. The first of the Senran Kagura games launched as an eShop exclusive here in North America in 2013. Oh man, Target didn't want this. The Picross E series launched in 2013, at least here in North America. Listen, I love Picross, but like, you own one of these, you're good. Gunman Clive was a cheap little Mega Man-like game. It's similar to many eShop games where, like, if this wasn't cheap on a handheld without too many games releasing for it all the time, it wouldn't stand out as much. Not to say it's a bad game, not at all. I just remember this being labeled as one of the 3DS eShop games. Like, it's just fine, okay? Nano Assault EX was an updated version of a 3DS game that launched physically in 2011, so the enhanced version was strangely digital only. Bugs vs. Tanks. Which side are you on? I know I play as the military in the game, but I'll wear my heart on my sleeve. I had a dream like this once. Attack of the Friday Monsters of Tokyo Tale is definitely quite a lot better. This is an oddly nostalgic feeling experience. It feels so genuine and heartfelt with a unique car battling mechanic. Jet Rocket 2, a sequel to a WiiWare game, fine. It's a more than basic 2D, 3D platformer hybrid, which was cool on WiiWare because that was really pushing the boundaries there. But on the 3DS eShop, I mean, 3D games were more and more common, so this isn't nearly as cool. However, a big standout on the 3DS eShop was the Sega 3D Classics line. Different from Nintendo's from earlier, this was something Sega did on their own accord, and they pumped out so many more titles. Most of these were fantastic. And just the fact that Sega put out considerably more games than Nintendo, yet they all included more features than the Nintendo 3D Classics ever did, it just makes me ask, why the hell did they do Urban Champion? But to wrap up 2013, easily one of the eShop games of the year, Steam World Dig. This kind of came out of nowhere. Most people didn't even know this was a follow-up to a DSiWare game, Steam World Tower Defense. But when this hit, it was an instant must-buy for so many 3DS owners.
Well, Officer Steelwool, what do you think? Should we let him go?
To hell.
Oh, come on, I was giving away 3DSs! It wasn't like I was putting straight up poison in candy.
That would actually put you in better standing. Poison just got approved by the FDA.
Damn, society is accelerating too fast for me. Wait, what if I can help you guys out with a case? I'll need some time, but I can figure out who the Nintendo eShop killer is.
Fantastic. Keep this up and might lower the severity of your charges. Knock you down to death row.
2014 can be considered a year of many things. NES Remix 2, Pushmo World, and the lack of anything else to talk about. Yeah, looking back at the Wii U's life, it truly does feel like 2013 was the last year Nintendo really tried with that system. 2014 and 2015 may have had some big releases, but the general energy around the console did not feel optimistic for the future. And something that may have contributed to that was the lack of Nintendo-published eShop content. The Wii U primarily just received virtual console titles and indie games. 2014, we really only got 2 original games from Nintendo themselves, starting off with NES Remix 2. Yeah, they wasted no time creating a follow-up to the original, this one being revealed just 2 months after the first was announced and released. Though NES Remix 2 was first shown in February and then launched in April. I feel like that kind of deflated the excitement for me. I mean, NES Remix is not the type of game you can hype up for months on end. Like, damn, did you see the leak? But this one was definitely quite a bit more interesting considering the game lineup. Oh wow, actual video games! Where's Scoon? I mean, Super Mario Bros. 2, 3, Zelda 2, Metroid, Kid Icarus, Kirby's Adventure, Dr. Mario, it's some of the greatest games on the NES, all featured in NES Remix 2. That alone makes this entry far better than the first. You'd think. I'm of the opinion that the simpler and worse games featured in NES Remix worked better with this challenge format, or at the very least, the games themselves benefited from being here. Yeah, Mario Brothers controls like ass, but that makes conquering 10-second challenges actually pretty fun and rewarding. Most of the flaws with these games don't get on my nerves in NES Remix because of how quick these are, and these older titles being this simple make them naturals for bite-sized missions. Plus, being playable in this way makes it easier to experience these titles in a modern context. NES Remix 2, the games all have more depth, they're more complicated, and thus, they are far better. But it's sort of a double-edged sword because, well, yes, the games here are great, part of me would just rather play the actual games themselves. You can't tell me you had that problem with the first game. It kind of makes the more filler challenges like hold the B button and watch the demo that much more irritating. Like, NES Remix 2 does have a slightly smaller number of challenges than the first game did, and you still include this? I do feel like the quality of challenges across the board have improved though, especially with the remixes. These have seen a noticeable improvement with far more character from this game and that game moments, which are always a blast. A ton more wacky ideas that feel like legitimate remixes rather than Photoshop filters. They also included Super Luigi Brothers, the full Super Mario Brothers game, but played backwards with Luigi. It is pretty wild how much a simple mirror mode can alter any game. Oh, and Super Mario Brothers is no different. This is a cool little bonus. But the main attraction here is the Nintendo World Championships Remix, a mode that unfortunately only appears if you own both NES Remix 1 and 2. Why can't we all just get along? I would totally buy this as its own separate game, going through Mario, Mario 3, and Dr. Mario in roughly 6 minutes, trying to get the highest score possible to end up seeing how you rank on the leaderboards. This is what I did the most in NES Remix 2, along with chipping away at the dozens upon dozens of challenges. This was great fun, and while I always appreciated how NES Remix 1 took outdated and frankly bad titles and made them fun, in the end, the second volume is definitely better than the first, which that's the best way to describe this series. 2 volumes of one big thing. NES Remix 2 is basically if NES Remix 1 kept on going. Same setup, user interface, everything. And with how quickly this released after the first, it was natural for fans to expect an NES Remix 3, 4, SNES Remix, and 64 Remix. And by June of that year, we finally got that. They just named it something weird. Pushmo World, another installment in the Mo series. Though this one reverts back to the original Pushmo with its gameplay mechanics. I mean, it's still really damn good, but there's not much to say outside of it's an HD Pushmo. It is a brand new game, it's not just the original 3DS entry on Wii U, but it might as well be. There's nothing distinctive about this one outside of it's in HD now. Why not add a multiplayer mode or something to take advantage of this being on a home console? In the end, yeah, I like this, but there's really not much else to say. It's another Pushmo on Wii U. That's it. Which, hey, that would have been perfectly fine, but man, the list just ended. That's if we don't include Japan exclusive eShop games. Interestingly enough, Nintendo released free software titled Nintendo Game Seminar 2013. This is a collection of 4 small games created by budding game designers during an event Nintendo would hold to teach how to make games just like the greats. There's not much here to write home about. These are very simple titles created within a small amount of time, but it's absolutely wonderful to see them compiled and officially released this way, even if it was only in Japan. And you know what? If we're counting that, I'll count this. Alright, Nintendo released Pikmin Short Movies HD on the Wii U eShop in November of 2014, alongside Pikmin Short Movies 3D on the 3DS eShop. Oh, well, this makes up for the months of neglect. So they decided to make about 20 minutes worth of Pikmin animation, and they released the content via these apps, which are basically just video players. Nothing too special here, though it is rather cool how the 3DS version displays the shorts in 3D. The animations themselves are really cute little vignettes of Pikmin life. They show how well some of Nintendo's characters and worlds can work outside of gaming, and the fact that Nintendo eventually purchased the production company responsible for the animation here proves that they thought so too. They didn't think they had to support their damn eShop though, but it didn't matter because 2014 was a huge year for indies on the eShop. This was when Nintendo fully accepted, yeah man, shit's f***ed, and wholly embraced independent developers, really pushing them in their Nintendo Direct presentations and also netting the biggest indie game, hell, one of the biggest games of 2014 as a console exclusive. Shovel Knight was a crowd-funded love letter to some of the most iconic NES classics while aiming to do its own thing rather than be a parody. It contains elements reminiscent of DuckTales, Zelda 2, Mega Man, Super Mario Bros. 3, Castlevania, but Shovel Knight makes it all its own. Something I always respected was how Shovel Knight never references anything. Nobody in the game says it's dangerous to go alone or your princess is in another castle. That helps Shovel Knight feel like it can stand toe-to-toe with the games that inspired it, rather than forever live in their shadow. Outside of the widescreen presentation and increased color palette and detail, this feels like it could have been straight from that 8-bit era. But that shows off how Shovel Knight isn't afraid to take the best from both retro and modern gaming and create one of the tightest designed experiences of the 2010s. The gameplay? Immaculate. It can't be overstated how ingenious the checkpoint system is. You can pass through these as normal checkpoints, or you can destroy them for extra cash. They won't work as checkpoints anymore. Like, that is my go-to method to ask where it all went wrong. The controls are perfect. The levels are masterfully crafted. The world and characters feel so genuine. It's easy to see how this was considered one of the best 2014 had to offer, and it was only on PC, Wii U, and Nintendo 3DS for the first year. The 3DS version is incredible. Stereoscopic 3D, everything looks so crisp on that tinier display, and after playing the game on home console, having it in its entirety on the 3DS just feels damn cool. Shovel Knight later went on to become almost a mascot for independent game development, making numerous cameo appearances in other games, even Smash Brothers. Same level. The game went on to receive a physical release in 2015, various amiibo figures, and when crowdfunded, the developers promised multiple playable characters and extra campaigns that they continue to update the game with for the next 5 years for free. Yeah, in 2019, Shovel Knight on Wii U and 3DS received its last major update with a brand new single-player campaign and multiplayer fighter side mode. I honestly think it's unfair to compare this to how other crowdfunded indie games released because they knocked everything out of the park here. Like, back during the Kickstarter, I doubt anybody expected 4 unique campaigns and a Smash Brothers mode with all these characters when they promised them as stretch goals. Playable boss night, battle mode, that's all these were ever meant to be, and I always assumed they were just gonna be small little bonus side things. But developer Yacht Club Games did the unthinkable. They didn't make Meme Run. 2014 may have been the year Nintendo fully embraced indies. There's a dark side to that. See, at the beginning of this generation, Nintendo was still a bit picky on what would be allowed on their platform, stopping games like Binding of Isaac from coming to the 3DS due to the offensive religious imagery. But they allowed this and it has the same damn thing! The entire point of this game is how silly it is to see on a Nintendo platform. Outside of that context, I'm not really sure if it works. Hey, did you see my joke last night? That wasn't a joke, you just didn't flush the toilet! Meme Run is an auto runner where you jump inside through internet memes. It was delisted a few months after launch due to the unauthorized use of said internet memes. Interesting considering the developers stated the game failed Nintendo's approval procedure multiple times. I don't know, I feel like the makers of Meme Run think it's funny to not play by the rules.
Yo, I punched a fucking baby in the face. They just let me do it.
And one of the biggest names on the Wii U eShop this year was Batman. Okay, we'll get to that. Arkham Origins Blackgate Deluxe Edition, a port of the 3DS and Vita game. The Batman Arkham series got a lot of support on this platform. Next to Skylanders and Just Dance, it might have been the most frequent third-party series. What would their conversation be? F1 Race Stars came to the system as an eShop exclusive, this being an Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 retail game from 2012. That already happened with Fist of the North Star Ken's Rage 2 in 2013, a game that was produced and probably envisioned as a full retail release, relegated to an eShop exclusive, more than likely due to sales projections of, no. But don't worry, this isn't the last we'll see of that. I wish. SteamWorld did got a Wii U release this year alongside Art of Balance, Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition, Tesla Grad, Costume Quest 2, Stick It to the Man, Swords and Soldiers, It'll Do, The Fall, The Swapper, Another World 20th Anniversary Edition, Thomas Was Alone, and Pure Solar, which was originally a homebrew Sega Genesis game, brought over to modern platforms, which is pretty neat. A World of Keflings, which was originally an Xbox Live Arcade title on Xbox 360, published by Microsoft, released on Wii U, which was strange. I mean, this game went nowhere else. Basically, all these games that didn't initially launch on Wii U, but got a port this year, just like Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, barely. Launching on 3DS in October of 2014, then by Christmas it launched on Wii U. Pretty quick turnaround, and that's a good thing, because the more people who could play this game, the better. In this case, it's one. Shantae and the Pirate's Curse was a big deal for eShop goers. I mean, the title that preceded it, Shantae Risky's Revenge, was considered the best damn thing on DSiWare. Though I was confused at the time due to developer WayForward launching a Kickstarter for Shantae Half Genie Hero in 2013, the first Shantae game on home console to be released in 2016. You know what? To tide you over until that, here's the first Shantae game on home console in 2014. To be fair, Half Genie Hero was to be designed from the ground up for consoles with HD hand-drawn visuals, while Pirate's Curse is more so just a 3DS game ported to Wii U. But hey, this is the kind of support Wii U needed. Not Scram Kitty and his buddy on rails. This was a Wii U exclusive originally, so Nintendo had to market it. It's fine. I mean, it's pretty unique being a mix between a platformer, shoot 'em up, and twin-stick shooter. It's just one of those games that you know nobody would care about if it released today. But here it was, in the same Nintendo Direct presentation as Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, Xenoblade, Bayonetta, Scram Kitty. 1001 Spikes was better because of the price point alone. Saw a little tough as nails retro platformer launched day and date across all platforms, including Wii U and 3DS. Damn, it's like this is a real console. Armillo stayed exclusive to Wii U and PC, basically out of admiration for how Nintendo treated independent developers. F you, Sony. Sports Ball was a local multiplayer-only Wii U exclusive, basically the arcade game Joust with balls. And of course, Child of Light. Launched on Wii U day and date with the other platforms, a smaller downloadable title by Ubisoft, and probably one of the highest quality eShop games to date. Seriously, look at this game. This is a Wii U eShop release, just like this. You can't say the Wii U didn't have variety. The 3DS had a bit of a slower year on the eShop in 2014, obvious by the fact it started with Steel Diver Sub Wars, Nintendo's first free-to-play title. They were already experimenting with different pricing strategies, like with Wii Sports Club, but this was structured like other free-to-play titles, where the online multiplayer is available to all who download, while other elements, specifically most of the single-player content, is locked behind a paywall. It always felt like Nintendo sort of just did this to tell their investors to shut the hell up! They were constantly pushing Nintendo to do this sort of thing. Join the mobile game space, put your games on, dear god, anything without two screens. So Nintendo said, fine, we'll make a free-to-play game. On the 3DS. Based on Steel Diver. Yeah, the 3DS launch title by Nintendo about submarines. Look everybody, it's the guy who gave a shit. Where'd he go? I had choice to make a follow-up, but when you're looking to experiment with free-to-play, why not experiment with a franchise you have nothing to lose with? Sub Wars didn't hook me at all, but it's for sure more interesting than the original Steel Diver, simply due to the fact it's in first person now. But overall, I couldn't really care less about this one. Though, in contrast, things can't be further from the truth about Nintendo's other free-to-play offering this year.
Rusty's Real Deal Baseball is this amazing hybrid between a sports arcade minigame collection and visual novel. It's all about talking to Rusty, who owns a baseball video game shop. You want to butter him up by telling him what he wants to hear, giving him items that make it easier to haggle the prices of the games you buy. Yeah, since this is a free download, you can play it for a bit, but afterwards you have to purchase the rest of the games with real-world money, though the real-world price you pay is dependent on how much you can haggle with a dog. This is still one of the most unique implementations of in-game purchases. Sure, the haggling is scripted, there is a limit to how much Rusty is willing to go down, but you can decide whether to keep pushing for a lower price and use discount coupons you earn playing the games, or say, you know what, he earned this. The games themselves are really simple, but quite addicting and fun, even though 100% this wouldn't be for everybody. While I think the pricing structure is pretty cool, others may find it insulting. I still feel that this is one of the eShop's greats. Even when forced into a corner to conform to industry trends, Nintendo still finds a way to be Nintendo. And then there's Pokemon Battle Troze, sequel to this DS game, which the only thing I can really say about is I like the box art. This looks really modern for a 2006 DS game, you know? This is pretty much like any other icon linking puzzle game you'd find on a smartphone, but it does bring over the strategy of the mainline Pokemon series. You link up the icons of a certain Pokemon, it'll do an attack to the Pokemon on the top of the screen you're battling against. And because certain types of Pokemon are weak against other certain types of Pokemon, you can keep that in mind to defeat your enemy quicker. I don't, I just move the funny pictures around. It's hard to criticize a game like this when it was always meant to be just there. Do you really think the game developer said, we're about to change the goddamn world? It's fine for what it is. If you wanted to play a puzzle game, you could do worse than this. It's just kind of shockingly bland for using the Pokemon license. The boring backgrounds, generic animations and menus, it's just one of those games you question how you're spending your time when you play it. Like these two games, Kirby Fighters Deluxe and D2D's Drum Dash Deluxe. These were sub-games featured in Kirby Triple Deluxe, now re-released on their own for 7 bones a pop. Why stop there? Could you offer that game's menu for 5? Listen, I'm not opposed to the idea of taking these mini-games and expanding upon them for a full-blown eShop release. I just don't think they did that. D2D's Drum Dash is a pretty fun little rhythm game, but there's just not enough content here in my opinion to warrant this being its own release. I beat the whole thing in under an hour, and sure, you may want to go back and get high scores, but I don't. Kirby Fighters Deluxe is a similar story, though I feel this works better as a standalone thing if you just want a cheap Smash Bros. Clone on 3DS. But these reek of what Nintendo used to do on DSiWare. Chop DS games up and offer them as smaller downloadable titles. Like, yeah, I see the strategy and a bit of the appeal back then. It was nice to have these slices of games always available on your system, but when you straight up are offering retail games on the eShop for download, this whole thing is starting to fall apart. But here comes Chibi Robo Photo Finder to save the day. Nintendo resurrected Chibi Robo! Yep, so Chibi Robo is back after a hiatus lasting a few years. This game still controls similarly to previous entries, though now focuses on taking photos, 3 years after the 3DS launched. Yeah, you can't really make a game focused around this thing in any year that doesn't end in 11 or 12. It's just not a good camera, and by this point, nobody was being wowed by anything on the 3DS other than games that were just flat out good games. You focus on making a game surrounding the 3D effect, the gyroscope, the AR, the camera, nobody's gonna care at this point. So yeah, this game did not deserve this kind of reception, but it is damn obvious why it got it. Didn't stop Nintendo from holding a Chibi Robo photo contest. Could get this Chibi Robo Wii U by playing Chibi Robo Photo Finder. If anything, you're scaring people off. Inazuma 11 finally made its way over to North America this year as an eShop exclusive, a soccer RPG by Level 5. It just won't stop in Japan and Europe, but it did on its first try over here. Retro City Rampage DX on 3DS. That was cool to see, especially because they still refused to do a Wii U version. 2048, crank the fucking 3D up. Moon Chronicles was a remake of the original DS game Moon, being released episodically now, plus having the audacity to be one of the only first-person shooters on 3DS. Good for it, that's awesome! That's also precisely why I was never interested. Azure Striker Gunvolt released, the spiritual successor to the Mega Man Zero series. That was an incredible 2D action game. That interestingly launched alongside a companion title, Mighty Gunvolt, a crossover between it and the upcoming Mighty Number 9. This was during the great Mega Man drought of the 2010s, so getting a classic Mega Man-like experience on top of a Mega Man Zero-like experience on the same day by the developers of both Mega Man 9, 10, and the Zero series, with Mighty Gunvolt featuring the protagonist of the upcoming Mega Man spiritual successor, Well, the rest of it was good. Whoa Dave and Zeo Drifter were nice little indie releases, but other than that, it was a bit of a softer year for 3DS, with Wii U getting some more attention. And with Epic Dumpster Bear releasing soon, it better pick up the pace. I love all Mario vs. Donkey Kong Tipping Stars games that released in 2015. Well, not that one. Releasing on both Wii U and 3DS at the same time, this was Nintendo's answer to Sony's cross-buy initiative. Finally, I can get a game on Wii U and I'll get it for 3DS as well, free of charge. Oh man, they were so nice. When I took the moldy bread, they gave me the puddle of vomit for free. Listen, the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games are all completely edible. They work, they'll fill you up, but man, like, I don't want lasagna again. Tipping Stars is the exact same damn game as Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2, March of the Minis, Mario vs. Donkey Kong Minis March Again, Mario vs. Donkey Kong Miniland Mayhem, except now, it's the game we're talking about. The core gimmick of this game is how, while there's a campaign of levels to play through, you can create and share your own online, which has been in all the other Mario vs. Donkey Kong games, but this one, you can tip the creator's stars. God damn, somebody name a game after that! These games are interesting to talk about, considering I'm not really sure how much here you can truly criticize outside of its existence as a whole. Like, these are fine, well-designed little puzzle platformers, but when you make like 9 of them, and they're all so damn similar, you don't see a genuine evolution take place, and when you finally make something worth a damn, you relapse. And this is $10 more than Minis on the Move? I get you receive both the 3DS and Wii U games, but if that was factored into the price point, that's not receiving the other version for free. They're just charging you for 2 games. And they're both the exact same. I'd say the 3DS version feels a bit more right. On Wii U, you play entirely on the gamepad, with the TV screen just displaying your whole view. But man, this just looks naked. I don't know. The game is fine, but these games just feel like busy work, like a crossword puzzle. You don't go, damn, now that was a crossword puzzle. You play them when you want to keep your mind from wandering. Amiibo Tap Nintendo's Greatest Bits also came to Wii U. I like that subtitle. A free application based around finding something for Amiibo figures to do. These guys launched right alongside Super Smash Bros. For Wii U that past holiday season, and everybody loved buying them. Yet scanning these things on the Wii U gamepad was often followed up by disappointment. Oh man, I wanted a hug. So Amiibo Tap was developed by Nintendo as a means to bring more value to Amiibo figures. Could just start shipping them with 5s. So we scan an Amiibo and unlock a scene from a classic NES or SNES game. Oh, so the full game?
No.
Well, maybe a remixed bit of an old title, like an NES remix?
Nuh-uh.
Okay, so at least I can scan Mario and unlock a Mario game.
You.
So, Amiibo Tap, you can scan any Amiibo, you unlock a demo for a random virtual console game. Scan Link, you just might get... What? Virtual console games for $5 to $8. You're telling me you couldn't have had something where you scan a Mario Amiibo, you get the original Super Mario Brothers? No? These figures' NFC chips are too easy to replicate and make dummy versions of, so I assume this was the only way they could have realistically done it. But damn if it isn't still worthless. What about an NES Remix 3, where you scan Mario characters, you get remixed challenges with them in other NES games? Nah, just give Amiibo owners a demo for Mock Rider, cause we need to make room in our warehouse. Did you know Art Academy Home Studio launched on Wii U this year? Lucky you, silence was the right answer. So yeah, 2 years after Art Academy Sketchpad launched, the full version released for 30 bones, replacing Sketchpad on the eShop, so you couldn't choose between the $4 drawing application and the $30 one. Listen, I see the value in this title as a teaching tool. It's just harder when you offer the main thing you're gonna be doing in the game for 7 times less cash. It's like what, I've been using Art Academy's Sketchpad for 2 years and then I say, finally, now I can learn how to draw. This is pretty much Sketchpad, but with lessons included, and the lessons in this game are fantastic. This is a wonderful way to teach about art, and this is a game that does benefit from being on Wii U with the gamepad. But I feel like this took way too long to release after Sketchpad. And by the time it did, I think everybody forgot how full-fledged Art Academy was even coming to Wii U. I think most assumed Sketchpad was it. It being an eShop exclusive definitely didn't help things. It got physical releases elsewhere in the world though, with Europe titling it Art Academy Adiole. That is a room in which art is done. I wish North America had a more similar titling method. In the end, it's fair to say this is one of Nintendo's most forgettable Wii U releases. They barely advertised it, only released here via the eShop, and it's easily confused with the $4 app that came out in 2013. All this game is an alibi. I Mind you, it's the day of, Your Honor. It couldn't have been me. Seems that Nintendo was starting to release more games exclusively on the eShop when they just weren't confident in their retail presence. Case in point, Fatal Frame, Maiden of Black Water. Yeah, Nintendo, do a digital-only release for a 14GB game on your system that only has 8GB and 32GB variations. You're a fucking genius. Can you make me happy next? This is just something that always perplexed me. Obviously, this game didn't get a physical release because it was deemed too risky. Like, we're probably not gonna attract new fans with this series. It's too niche. Why not just put it out on the eShop so we don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of releasing a physical copy? But then you put out Devil's Third and Tokyo Mirage Sessions out physically, plus this game got physical releases in Japan and Europe, and if you really weren't concerned about making new fans with this game, why did you release it as a free download so people could play the first bit of the game and then be prompted to pay for the rest of it? Or were you trying to attract new fans or not? Because something not appealing to new fans is having to download a 14GB file on a system that takes 4 years to load a loading screen. Well, finally. So Fatal Frame is an odd series. It was originally only on PlayStation 2 and Xbox before becoming a Nintendo exclusive for a bit. Fatal Frame 2 was remade just for Wii alongside new entry Fatal Frame 4. The spin-off Spirit Camera was exclusive to 3DS, and of course, Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater. The 5th main entry was only on Wii U. Being a series about taking pictures of ghosts, I mean, damn, I think that was the Wii U's MO. Using the gamepad, moving it around like a camera, obviously, this was the perfect fit conceptually. In practice, it isn't this undeniable upgrade from a standard controller. It's still just a gimmick. It's cute, but isn't necessary at all, evident by the game's release on non-Nintendo systems a few years later. The game itself, in my opinion, it's a bit of a love it or hate it kind of title. I never got too into it as a horror game due to how scripted and predictable the scares are, plus how stiff and clunky it is to control the main character. If you're thinking a horror game, it would be potentially beneficial to have stiffer movement. It makes when you have to book it that much harder, which can increase the fear. It doesn't do that here. The stiff controls just don't feel great, probably because what am I running away from? What am I afraid of? A bad shot? But I still think there's a lot to appreciate with this game. I think it looks and sounds good, and the core gameplay works just fine. It's definitely an acquired taste though, so releasing this game as a free download to try it out, I can see where they were coming from with that now. Appeal to people who will download anything because it's free.
Your Honor, in my defense, it was free.
The only other major release of Nintendo's this year on the Wii U eShop was the Splatoon Global Test Fire, a free download to try out Splatoon during specific times and days before its release in May of 2015. Not much else to say here. It was just an app that let you play the online multiplayer for hour-long spurts through the day on May 9th, with another event happening on May 23rd. It was obviously successful as it showcased the value and fun of Splatoon, helping push it to become an incredibly popular franchise right out the gate, which is why Nintendo's done similar online test apps for Splatoon 2, ARMS, Mario Tennis Aces, Splatoon 3, Mario Strikers Battle League, etc. It makes it a fun event where everybody's trying to game out for the first time all together. If only they did that for Black. Indie releases really hit their peak this year on Wii U. We got so many amazing titles, and yeah, I'll say it, Black is one of them.
Oh, thank God.
This was originally a mobile game, but one of the classy ones. A game that genuinely needs a touchscreen, so obviously mobile made the most sense for it, though thankfully it got a Wii U release. It's all about drawing formations that repeat indefinitely so you can try to hit certain icons while avoiding others. It's just a really solid little puzzle game that gets pretty tricky pretty early on, though no stage ever feels unbeatable. Citizens of Earth was an Atlas-published RPG heavily inspired by Earthbound that also launched on 3DS that I always found pretty damn charming. Dot Arcade was an interesting Wii U exclusive, being based on the most primitive form of video game, Lights. This came out the same year PS4 got Rocket League. Come on guys, just buy the Wii U. Why? Now Freedom Planet, this was a great one. Originally created as a Sonic fan game, the developer ended up turning it into its own thing entirely, which was no doubt a good move. And while this released on PC before, for consoles, this was only on Wii U for a few years. See, that was a benefit of the Wii U having little to no AAA third-party support. It allowed for indies to shine, and I'm sure many put their games out as exclusives as they felt in debt to Nintendo for all they've done for gaming. Or they felt really bad for them. Rumbo was another exclusive for a while there, this one being a platformer where the color of the background changes constantly, and thus if certain platforms are that color, they disappear until the background changes again. It can be played as a standard platformer, racing game, party game, fighting game, this thing has it all, with a really great concept, style, and soundtrack to boot. Plus it features genuinely one of the largest cast of indie game characters ever. So many of them are playable here, specifically tons from Wii U and 3DS games. A lot of the indie games made for these systems during this time feel connected in some way, probably due to them being pushed alongside each other in Nintendo Directs. But this game really does highlight that sense of community. But where's Slender? Slender the Arrival, sequel to the viral game Slender from 2012. This was a big deal online. Everybody liked to record themselves playing, pissing themselves. Nostalgia, what I would give to piss myself again. That was a free game, so it was much more impressive. As a cheap little jump scare game, it worked well. Slender the Arrival is on a different level, considering you have to pay for it. And I just feel like less is more here. This game feels like they were under a lot of pressure after their free little game blew up online, so they had to follow it up with something bigger, more ambitious. But they just couldn't execute it well. Look at this. This is a choppy mess. Also, I will say, this might have been a problem with Fatal Frame. I think it's physically impossible to be scared with this in your hands.
Now to onlookers, yeah, this is f***ing terrifying.
Octodad, Dadly as Catch, the original Trine Enchanted Edition, Whoa Dave, Zeo Drifter, Don't Starve Giant Edition, the Gunman Clive HD Collection, which bundled Gunman Clive and Gunman Clive 2, which released earlier this year for 3DS, Ollie Ollie, Electronic Super Joy, all fantastic to see come to the console. But without a doubt, the biggest to see was The Binding of Isaac Rebirth on not only Wii U, but 3DS as well, specifically the new 3DS line of systems. It seems that Nintendo has finally loosened their stance on content coming to their platforms. Thank God. But we got a fair amount more games that were Wii U only, at least for the time being. Typo Man was always a game that looked beyond intriguing. A platformer using words and letters to build the environment, creating this gloomy dystopian world where you have to solve puzzles with wordplay. This sounds amazing. In the end though, this is a pretty damn basic game. It doesn't go far enough with its concept. This concept has all the potential in the world to be one where every element of the game design just clicks into place. But in the end, it's a basic platformer where you have to solve puzzles by putting letters together. It's not bad at all. It just doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of its potential. Elliot Quest, Swords and Soldiers 2, Human Resource Machine by the World of Goo developers. This was a packed year for independent Wii U console exclusives, but 3 titles really stood out to me. First up, Affordable Space Adventures, a game that, by design, only works on Wii U. This was a Wii U exclusive. It will probably always be a Wii U exclusive, and that's because of how much it depends on the Wii U gamepad. As you move your ship around, you have to keep an eye on the controller to adjust any necessary options, with other players being able to assume different roles, which, while this is a fine single-player game, that makes it a great multiplayer one. Fast Racing Neo was a big deal, as this was being touted as this brand new not F-Zero game. See, if Nintendo fans want anything, it's games they don't buy. But Fast Neo was one everybody should have bought. This was one of the highest quality indie releases on Wii U. It is incredible what the developer Shin'en was able to do here. And they went all out. They even hired the announcer from F-Zero GX for this game. They wanted this to be a sort of magnum opus of futuristic racing titles. With that being said, I feel like this has more in common with the Wipeout games on PlayStation than F-Zero. You gotta swap the colors of your ship to match portions of the track or items to collect. It's a really good fast-paced racing game that, even if it's not exactly the same, does scratch a bit of the itch for a new F-Zero, and I should really stop scratching. Though I'd say the biggest Wii U eShop game of 2015 was, without a doubt, well, I already talked about Amiibo Tap. Minecraft Wii U Edition. Yeah, the fact it took this long for Minecraft to hit the Wii U shows that it didn't leave much of a lasting impression. If they put this out in 2013 and maybe put in some cool gamepad features, maybe you'd have something there. Nope, it's just a straight conversion of Minecraft. It works fine. But was this really gonna sell Wii U's? A way to play Minecraft a year before the system gets discontinued? Regardless, this was at least heartwarming to see at the time. Like, aw, they're taking the ugly kid to prom. On the 3DS side of things, man, it wasn't just pigs that were flying, these were full-blown hogs. So back on DSiWare, one of the most prolific titles was Flipnote Studio, a free app that gave you the ability to make simple animations and share them around the world. I absolutely loved this thing to bits, how simple it was to quickly make something, regardless if you were a complete novice or animation veteran. Sadly though, this was one of the few DSiWare titles not available on the 3DS eShop. However, Nintendo announced plans for a successor made specifically for the platform, Flipnote Studio 3D. This was first mentioned around the time the 3DS originally launched and was later detailed via a Nintendo Direct in March of 2013, with it releasing in Japan a few months later, followed by a launch in Europe and North America scheduled for August 2013. Now, my science project in school that year was, what if it wasn't? I'm sorry. Yeah, this game just didn't release outside of Japan for the longest time. Nintendo said the initial delay was due to them wanting to better prepare the online service for the worldwide launch, and then Flipnote 3D's online sharing tool was roped in with Swapnote's big controversy. Jesus Christ, what were they sending on Flipnote? So, after all of this, Nintendo went silent on a release outside of Japan. That was until February of 2015, when Nintendo launched the game exclusively through their loyalty program, Club Nintendo, as they announced that program's discontinuation. So Flipnote 3D was sort of a parting gift. You just get a code to redeem the game on the eShop. It was completely free for all users, so why not just put it on the eShop? The same reason you don't put your diary on there. This is just embarrassing. It's such a gutted release with no online functionality whatsoever. One of the best aspects of the original Flipnote Studio was browsing what other users were creating, and stripping that out, I mean, it's still a damn good simplistic animation tool, one that allows you to create animations in 3D now, which is awesome. But I just always felt so lonely using this. Flipnote Studio 3D is a robust and wonderfully designed little tool to make animation for fun, but lacks everything that made the original so beloved. Damn, I need a rebound after that. This is a D-bound! Pokemon Shuffle, releasing less than a year after Pokemon Battle Troze. I can see why they warranted this new title releasing. Keep in mind, I also just dropped my glasses. So these are pretty much the exact same goddamn game, though Shuffle does have a much better presentation overall, and the structure does lend things to stay far more fresh as time goes on. One problem, it's free. Like, that's gonna stop me. Another one of Nintendo's free-to-play experiments, though this one leans far more into the traditional mobile game method. You can only play so many stages before your hearts run out, after which you need to wait for them to replenish to play more of the game, or you could flat out buy more with your hard-earned cash. So that's sort of the issue here. Pokemon Shuffle has better gameplay, but a horrible pricing structure, while Pokemon Battle Troze is far more boring, but is thankfully just one flat fee. So, which one would I recommend? Not Pokemon Rumble World. Another free-to-play game, and it's Pokemon Rumble? It's like a serial killer that smells bad. But to be fair, this game is set up to be far less greedy than Pokemon Shuffle, where making in-game purchases is almost required to get anywhere. In Pokemon Rumble World, you can buy these diamonds that help you progress with actual money, or earn them by simply playing the game, and honestly, the simplicity of Pokemon Rumble works fairly well as a free-to-play title, especially one that's set up this way. This is an actual game, giving me actual levels to walk through, unlike Pokemon Rumble U, which is more concerned with giving me something foul. Plus, hey, if you're not into this, they released a physical version for one flat price later down the line. Damn, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Pokemon Rumble World? I mean, it's still Pokemon Rumble. It's not great, and for this series, saying that might as well be proposing to it. But that wasn't the last of the free-to-play Pokemon eShop releases this year. In December of 2015, we got a big f***ing problem. That's what we got. Pokemon Picross. I love Picross. Pokemon? Well, it starts with the same letter as Picross. It's my favorite and least favorite thing. It's a sexy serial killer. Yep, this is definitely Picross, but now with some light Pokemon elements thrown into the gameplay. Each puzzle is based on a specific Pokemon, and when you finish it, you can then use that Pokemon and their special abilities in future puzzles to help out. So yeah, it has a bit more personality than a typical Picross game, but when that personality is being communicated through pixel art that barely moves, it's not really a game changer. When it comes to the free-to-play aspect, the game thankfully caps you out after spending about 30 bones and proceeds to make all the in-game currency free following that. Without spending money, it takes far too long to unlock everything and progress through the title. Though with spending money, I mean, $30 for this? Come on, I could buy the Pokemon Rumble World for that. This one's alright, just feels a bit forced into the free-to-play model rather than being fully designed around it, much like Stretchmo. Another entry in the Mo series, this one being free to download. The idea here is that you can purchase certain batches of levels if you just want certain stages, or just a handful for cheap, or you can buy them all together for a discounted price of 10 bones, around the same price as the previous titles. The different level packs all have unique themes, such as NES games or having to avoid obstacles while solving the puzzle, but if you just buy the bundle with everything, it's just like any other Pushmo game after that. Just kind of makes the free-to-start model a bit worthless here. I mean, I get it. It makes it easier for newcomers to hop in and try out a few things for free, and maybe dabble in just a couple dozen stages for $3 instead of biting the bullet on a $10 game. But man, the main course of levels here is $5. That's pretty damn close to the original Pushmo's price point. So it's like, if you want a good starting point for the series, you seriously can't do any better than the first. And I feel like this pricing structure, while in theory could pull newcomers in, I feel that it can honestly deter them alongside longtime fans. Nobody wants to download a free game, then 10 minutes in get a tin can rattled in their face. The game itself, I mean, it's another Pushmo game, though this time you have the ability to expand and pull out blocks from the sides. Once again, it's fantastic, though strangely, things are starting to get real samey. Even with the incredible amount of gameplay differences between each of the games, I don't know, with so many games releasing so close to each other and all being eShop games where you're pulling blocks around in the grass, can you blame me for getting burnt out? I just wish Pushmo became bigger than it did. I would have loved to see a full retail release or a new entry evolving the series further, rather than just coming up with a new twist to the block puzzles and boom, there's a new game right there. And with Stretch Mode being the last of the series on the eShop here, 2015 felt like we were passing the torch from one eShop icon over to another. Introducing Box Boy, developed by HAL Laboratory, the people behind Kirby. Very simple platformer where you can push out blocks from your character here and form them in certain ways to solve puzzles, make a bridge, a step, shield yourself with them, etc. This has some really simple yet incredibly smart design to it all, though it was always hard for me to get fully invested in this series. I mean, its simplicity is beautiful, but also its biggest detractor in my opinion. While the design here is smart, I don't think it's as smart as other puzzle games with basic visuals for this to truly stand out to me. A good game with solid mechanics, just what I feel wouldn't be talked about nearly as much if it weren't made by the Kirby developers. If it were made by the Dr. Mario Miracle Cure developers, none of you would bat an eye. Yeah, also releasing this year was a new Dr. Mario game. For $9, you get Dr. Mario gameplay or Dr. Luigi gameplay like the L-shaped pills, plus online and local multiplayer, the Virus Buster mode, and a new mode entirely featuring power-ups. Why was this $6 cheaper than Dr. Luigi? Because Mario just rolled out of fucking bed for this one. What's up with his face? Seriously though, when this released, it was the definitive modern Dr. Mario experience. The Nintendo 64 game still had a unique single-player story mode and 4-player multiplayer, but this has everything else you could really ask for from Dr. Mario, and for $9, being cheaper than both Dr. Luigi and the original Dr. Mario Online RX on WiiWare, I don't really see how you could pass on this. I found my glasses. Well, Dr. Mario is always good, simple fun, but see, after like 17 entries, you need more than just, it's Dr. Mario on this platform to keep me interested. That's pretty much all Dr. Luigi was, and thankfully Miracle Cure has the power-ups plus everything else from the previous few games. But it's still really not enough for me to care tremendously. Visually, these are some of the most boring games out there. Like, my God, could you pick maybe a third background color? Solid little puzzle game, but is not something to write home about. But something that is, oh boy, the Nintendo Badge Arcade, a free application. Well, not anymore. See, back in 2014, Nintendo updated the 3DS to support custom themes. You could download a variety of themes from the theme shop and really express yourself through the 3DS menu system. It's a Legend of Dark Witch Blad kind of day. To go alongside these themes, you could further customize your system with badges to place around the user interface where the game icons would go. And the only way to get these badges is through the Badge Arcade, hosted by a rabbit. Say what you want, that's impressive. You have all these different claw machines you can play where you try to nab some badges based on all kinds of Nintendo or video game things. It's pretty simple, but oddly satisfying to try and get all the badges in a machine, even if I wouldn't be caught dead with them on my home screen. The app was consistently updated with new collections of badges to collect and new types of machines that offer a twist on the traditional claw machine. This is a supremely fun little app that ruined the lives of millions. $1 for 5 attempts to get some PNGs? That adds up. When you see a 3DS with the entire Pokemon lineup on its home screen, that indicates a ruined marriage. I think everything about this app was brilliant, though the pricing could have been a bit more generous, I think. This sort of app is designed to be as addictive as possible to keep feeding money into it. Sure, it's supposed to be just like normal Crane games, and it succeeds at feeling like that. But it's wild to me that with how much people despise microtransactions and loot boxes and all of that, this app didn't get much heat at all. Looking at the cons listed in these reviews, I can see why. Third party and indie wise, this was an incredibly light year. Attack on Titan Humanity in Chains was a retail game in Japan, localized in English, but released only via the Nintendo eShop by Atlas. Thank God. Ironfall Invasion was yet another free to start game, this time as a third person shooter with single and multiplayer. Thank God. This one is no doubt impressive, highlighted by Nintendo in their January 2015 Nintendo Direct, they stated this game was developed by 3 whole people. But man, this is just the type of game you play when you genuinely have no other console other than a 3DS. Dementium Remastered, a re-release of the Nintendo DS game by Renegade Kids, similar to their other remaster, Moo Chronicles. They have such range, don't they? Terraria received a 3DS port alongside probably the biggest indie game on 3DS this year, Steam World Heist. A new entry in the Steam World series, this one being a turn-based tactical game. Well, with so little occurring this year on the eShop, 2016 have Mini Mario and Friends Amiibo Challenge. It's all been building up to this. On both the Wii U and 3DS eShop, we got the same thing again. Mini Mario and Friends Amiibo Challenge. It may not be called Mario vs. Donkey Kong, but it sure smells like it. This is a free game that requires Amiibo figures to play, and unlike Amiibo Tap, it's not Amiibo Tap. Thank God. To be fair, it's hard to complain about this game considering it does give you substantial content with your Amiibo figures. Unique stages for each of these characters, all specifically designed to complement their aesthetics and abilities. You get 4 special levels per character alongside the 12 stages all characters can play through. If you only have 1 or 2 of these Amiibo, that's a pretty light adventure. If you own all of them, damn, why would you need any other game? It's definitely more interesting of a release than Tipping Stars, even if that is a more complete and structurally sound title. But for a free app you can download to get some quick gameplay out of your Amiibo from, this ain't half bad. Now Star Fox Zero, that was full-blown half bad. There is a free eShop download promoting the game. Star Fox Zero, The Battle Begins, plus Training. Basically, it plays a promotional animated short for the game while also containing the training mode from Star Fox Zero. Basically, it's a demo. Now, Star Fox Guard, the game bundled with Star Fox Zero, also had a demo, but this one was called the Special Demo. These both released months after the game launched. I really let anybody on the fence about this game realize they shouldn't even be close to it. And that is pretty much it when it comes to Nintendo's first-party output on the Wii U eShop. In general, that was it. If I had any complaints, well, they never made a Lost Reavers-like experience. Oh, well, thank God for Namco. The last major year of the Wii U's relevancy still contains some noteworthy eShop experiences by third parties, including Lost Reavers by Bandai Namco. This was originally announced in January 2015 as Project Treasure, a free-to-play multiplayer title all about surviving through enemies and traps to then find and collect treasure, eventually being renamed to Lost Reavers. It's exclusive to Wii U. That's a selling point. This is how I think things went. Nintendo asked Bandai Namco to make an exclusive Wii U title, so they decided to make something that's more tax write-off than game. Turns out this was mostly created as a test project, I guess. A game that younger developers at Namco could cut their teeth on. Damn, the Wii U was used. There's just nothing to this game. It's so generic and bland. Just a second-rate pet project Nintendo used to make it seem like the Wii U was getting legitimate third-party support. The Wii U has Lost Reavers, unlike the other guys. We also have Birdmania Party. Why did they put Birdmania out on Wii U? In 2016, Super Meat Boy hit the system, which was a lovely surprise, though they had to replace the original soundtrack due to a licensing dispute. SteamWorld Heist received a port, Oddworld New and Tasty, which was a pretty massive title to make the jump. Axiom Verge was a big deal. That was the Metroid-like game at the time, and to have it on a Nintendo system felt like a match made in heaven. Minecraft Story Mode. Okay, so this was all in the era of the Telltale games, all those point-and-click interactive drama games like The Walking Dead, Batman, Tales from the Borderlands. We didn't get any of those, but we did get Minecraft Story Mode and some more milk to help us sleep at night. Hey, Minecraft's for everybody. It does massively appeal to kids, but it's a general audience type of game. But it being the only Telltale game we got was just kind of insulting. Like, come on! The Walking Dead Telltale series was one of the biggest games of all time. It got a damn Ouya release, and you're telling me the only game you could warrant putting on Wii U was Minecraft Story Mode? Mutant Mudds Super Challenge, released across both Wii U and 3DS. It's actually a sequel to the original, but the name makes it sound more like an expansion pack. It's a tough-as-nails follow-up, and a great continuation of the original Mutant Mudds, though I'd say it took too long to come out and didn't do enough to distinguish itself from the original. It's pretty much just harder Mutant Mudds. It does an excellent job of being that, but by 2016, I think it was too little too late. Tumblestone was an indie puzzle game Nintendo pushed hard. It was either this or Bombing Bastards. And I'd say the last major release of 2016 was Pirate Pop Plus, which was a little tribute to old school handheld gaming. Other than that, original releases on the Wii U eShop were basically relegated to releases, but the 3DS eShop, that's where Nintendo fans are spending their 2016. Questioning their faith. My Nintendo Picross The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess was another loyalty program exclusive eShop game. This one you'd get from using the Club Nintendo replacement, My Nintendo. Like hepatitis. My Nintendo is a piece of junk. Like, just look at all these digital rewards. My Nintendo theme to Donkey Kong? The only reason I'd get that is if I had something to hide. My Nintendo Picross Twilight Princess was just a smaller promotional title. The Picross games were easy to churn out for 3DS, and Twilight Princess HD for Wii U just came out, so hey, let's promote this to our most loyal fans. Yeah, the ones with the release date tattoo. It's a fine, albeit obviously budget version of Picross with Twilight Princess art in it. Now, if that's not what you're interested in, Box Boy has nearly none of those elements. The sequel to Box Boy, you know? I always wondered what happened next. Box Boy is very much just more of the same, except now you can create 2 sets of boxes, which doesn't really feel like that warrants a sequel. What, does just adding an ability do that? What does taking one away do? If Box Boy gets a limb cut off, is that a prequel? Again, a fine, fun little puzzle game, just nothing too special. Unlike Pocket Card Jockey, developed by Game Freak, this combines horse racing and solitaire. Thank God they picked those 2 out of the hat. So I love the energy of this game. It's so silly and the dialogue just does not take itself seriously at all, with a really dumb and fun explanation of why these 2 things are combined here. But they complement each other. The horse racing element makes playing solitaire more exciting, and solitaire makes horse racing far deeper in video game form. These 2 things just go together like peanut butter and $40 million. Yeah, that's a good combo. Swap Doodle. Uh-oh. I assume this would have been the 3DS's first AO game, but nah. This is a successor to Swap Note in nearly every way. Why they waited until 2016 to do so? Maybe that year child safety was getting a little too comfortable. Swap Doodle is pretty much just Swap Note again, though this time with in-app purchases like drawing lessons and stationery and a few features removed, such as the ability to include photos you've taken, but obviously for security reasons. Really strange to me how similar this is to the original app with only a couple of things altered, especially after how much the initial controversies obviously affected Nintendo's decision making with this kind of stuff. In the end, it's another form of Swap Note, but released at a time in which I can't really see many people saying they heavily got into this one. Outside of those releases, Nintendo put out a handful of heavy-duty eShop games, titles that were designed to be sold at retail and in other regions were, but here in North America, they feared what we'd do with a box.
Perjury's pretty cool.
The most unfortunate eShop exclusive for us has to be Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix, a game Nintendo of America assumed wouldn't do well at retail, which is ridiculous. I'd buy it. That doesn't mean much, doesn't it? Mega Mix is a collection of some of the best games from throughout the entire Rhythm Heaven series. The remade and enhanced to all fit within this title alongside a handful of brand new scenarios. While most of this is older content, it's all been recreated to feel like everything fits together. For example, games from the DS entry that were played in a different orientation with touch controls are now played in standard widescreen with buttons. Coupled with the new story mode, extra modes, and overall presentation, this makes Mega Mix feel less like a compilation and more like its own game that just so happens to include some reused content. This is phenomenal and a wonderful way to put out a new entry in a series that may not do well, so it's smart and honestly, probably one of the best, if not the best, Rhythm Heaven game. We also received Picross 3D Round 2 on the eShop exclusively over here, while in Europe and Japan they also got physical releases. Who needs them anyways? Now I have more space for my thoughts. Picross 3D was a DS title that translated standard Picross puzzles into 3D cubes, maintaining the general rules but altering them quite a lot to work with that added dimension, and after some tutorials, it becomes very addicting. It's a much more complicated yet engaging version of Picross that I think got even better with Round 2 on the 3DS. The added horsepower does numbers to the experience. Everything feels so much smoother with loads more personality in the backgrounds and the puzzles, and there are new twists with differently colored spots that overall make Picross 3D Round 2 just one of the best little puzzle games. With third parties, we got a sequel to Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Dual Destinies, this time Spirit of Justice, also an eShop exclusive, Boo, Guruman 3D, a monstrous adventure, a port of this older PSP game, and that's basically it for 2016. I hope you're looking forward to Box Boy next year. Oh, Thank God I made it! 2017, the year of the Nintendo Switch, also the year of Bye Bye Box Boy on the Nintendo 3DS. With only 365 days, it's incredible we had room for both. Bye Bye Box Boy is more of the same, and still a good little puzzle platformer, but I truly don't know what else to say about it. It's fine, but my opinion of the original Box Boy is the exact same as any game that followed it. Tank Troopers by Nintendo is a pretty basic tank game with single player and multiplayer, though the multiplayer is not online, which I don't blame them for not putting online multiplayer in a 3DS eShop game in 2017, but with multiplayer being front and center here on the menu, it's obviously a big part of this game's identity and reason to exist, so why bother if you're not offering online? Though I will say, the production values are exquisite for an eShop game. The full 3D environments, voice acting, fun character designs, it's a rock solid little game. Though being a little game just wasn't really enough to get me and others to open their 3DS systems around this time. Much like two Kirby titles that released within the year, similar situation to the Kirby Fighters Deluxe and DDD's Drum Dash Deluxe fiasco, these are two games based on sub-games found in 2016's Kirby Planet Robobot, Team Kirby Clash, and Kirby 3D Rumble. We got Team Kirby Clash Deluxe, which was free to start with microtransactions littered in there. I mean, if you're gonna make these standalone, making them free makes more sense than charging, what, $7 for this standalone? For this? For what it is, Team Kirby Clash Deluxe is fine. Basically just a game comprising of nothing but boss battles, though the other title, Kirby's Blowout Blast, is definitely more interesting. Based on the 4-second long Kirby 3D Rumble, Blowout Blast is 12 seconds long. A 3D Kirby game, long before they made the official jump with Kirby in the Forgotten Land on Nintendo Switch. Though this is way more basic, way more restrictive, and way less fun. You can't transform into enemies like in most traditional Kirby games. This is sort of a 3D reimagining of the original Kirby's Dream Land on Game Boy. You can inhale enemies, then spit them out, and you want to try and rack up combos by spitting them at the right time and angle. But that's pretty much all this game is, cruising through a few levels, defeating enemies, and before you know it, well, what do you know, my week just opened up. It's fun enough, but I wouldn't say it's worth much more than $6. Damn. Just really too short to be worth a damn, but I couldn't imagine the core gameplay loop being much fun for any longer than the game is. In addition to those, Nintendo released yet another retail game as an eShop exclusive over here, this time being Style Savvy Styling Star on Christmas Day. Jesus Christ. The Style Savvy series is a consistent entity, one that refused to go away during the 3DS generation, but one that I'm not against. These aren't bad games, far from it. Just because they don't appeal to you doesn't mean they don't have any right existing. And for a style-focused business simulation game, it's pretty damn that. It's just, for such a niche casual game like this, I question how putting it on the eShop really helps it. Nintendo was still pumping out retail 3DS titles at the time, and making this game whose target demographic, I'm not sure how many of them is logging into the 3DS eShop in late 2017 to buy a game for $40, exclusive there. I'm just kind of curious to see those sales numbers. Outside of Nintendo's contributions, Capcom came out with another Ace Attorney title, this one being a 3DS remaster of Apollo Justice. Not a huge leap forward or anything, just pretty much the original game in widescreen with cleaned up sprites and a 3D effect. Blaster Master Zero, which I always associate with the Nintendo Switch eShop around its launch, actually released day and date on the 3DS, which is pretty damn interesting. And Chicken Wiggle was one of the last major exclusive indie games on the system. By the same developer as Mutant Mudds and Zeo Drifter, this is a clever little puzzle platformer with a level building mode. Really cool, but after they expressed disappointment in the sales of the title, I mean, yeah, that stinks, but it's a 3DS exclusive in 2017. What could be worse than that? 2018. Dylan's Dead Heat Breakers, the third Dylan game, because could you really end it here? With so many questions left? This was actually a retail game in other regions, which is pretty cool to see the series get a bigger budget and push. As a 3DS game in 2018, oh man, thank you for getting me that water I said I needed. But it's instantly apparent how much more detail and care was put into this entry. Still Dylan though. It is probably the best game in the whole series, but at the end of the day, it's still the same damn armadillo from 5 years ago. SteamWorld Dig 2 may have launched on Nintendo Switch in 2017, but it actually got a 3DS version in February of 2018, which is just bizarre to see and even weirder to play. I mean, it's pretty cool to see games you don't associate with the 3DS on this screen, like PDI Check. Yeah, in 2019, we got vision testing software on the 3DS eShop for $100. Why was I more pissed about Kirby Blowout Blast's price? Shakedown Hawaii released for 3DS in 2019, the successor to Retro City Rampage, and That's it! That is roughly the entire life of the 3DS and Wii U eShops. I mean, I have loads of amazing memories with both of these, but by the end of it, it was obvious nobody was using these damn things.
Guys, we gotta go! I know who the killer is!
I'll drive.
He didn't lie.
This will give us a good look at the criminal.
This isn't a criminal. This is grass.
Just listen to me. Who would have a motive to kill the Nintendo eShop?
You know, on second thought, this grass has nothing to lose.
Some may think Nintendo was the one to kill the eShop, but why does the store live in the first place? What purpose does it have staying open? I don't think this was death by homicide. I think this was death by neglect. Nintendo wasn't the eShop killer. It was us. Oh my god, the ghosts of all the dead eShop releases are tormenting the citizens!
What the f***? What the f***? Why are there ghosts every f***ing where? What did you do? Dude! Everywhere f***ing ghosts? That's not okay! It's not okay!
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Oh no! And now an angry mob is forming?
Those guys killed the eShop. Let's get them!
Guys! Guys! There's no sense in rioting over this or tearing ourselves down. I came up here to see the entire world responsible for the eShop shutting down, and instead I unleashed all the games killed by the store closing. But you know what? I think these spirits being out here shows that their legacy will forever live on. Fans have archived damn near everything online. Many of the games from these eShops have been re-released on modern platforms or through physical means. The eShops may be over, but their legacy will forever be remembered, and if Nintendo isn't gonna preserve it, we sure as hell will. But we can't just sit around and complain about Nintendo shutting down eShops we weren't using in the first place. We killed the eShops because we didn't care enough about them for the longest time. And oh, now they're awesome? I looked at pretty much the entire lives of both eShops, and they hold some incredible memories for me. But I should have talked about them sooner. Even if I didn't have anything new to buy from them, I could have talked about them to somebody and maybe convinced them to check them out. We all have to appreciate these things in the moment and keep appreciating them. And we can't ignore them until it's too late. I've said pretty much everything I can about the 3DS and Wii U eShops. I oddly don't feel at peace. 'Cause I'm gonna have to talk about this again!